Cries for help echo through the chaos, growing more desperate by the second. Everyone runs from the beasts, but one young man still stands his ground. That man is Ye Jing, a level 0 abyss scavenger. He has no power to hurt the monsters, so he survives by collecting loot left behind by class changers. Staring at the system message above the Yuling Lang, Ye Jing grits his teeth. Damage dealt, 0. In the class system, he is just level 0, the lowest tier, often treated like dead weight. Suddenly, the monster screeches. Its fanged mouth opens wide, ready to swallow everything. Refusing to die so easily, Ye Jing pulls out a wooden shield and roars, ready to risk it all. But the crude shield is useless. One swipe from the beast shatters it instantly. Ye Jing is struck as well. His already wounded body is torn open again. He feels like he has reached his limit, but at that exact moment, his blue eyes flash with a strange light. It is not light from outside, but pure willpower. Ye Jing roars, grips a wooden stick, and stabs forward. The system chimes. For the first time, he deals damage to the Yuling Lang. 1 point. The scene shifts, returning to a sunny day in City G. The location is an abyss gate inside the city. Without hesitation, Ye Jing rushes straight inside. Holding a crystal box, he continues his usual job. Ye Jing is an abyss scavenger. A few coworkers move with him. One teases him for being too slow. Setting the box down, Ye Jing calmly explains his job is to sort leftover loot after the combat team finishes. He carefully wipes each crystal. Even scraps are tightly controlled. Management does not want resources falling into civilian hands. A single crank crystal is worth over 50,000 yuan. Suddenly, someone props a foot on the crate and calls out to Ye Jing. The man warns him seriously. All dungeon loot is inspected. If anyone hides crystals, they face huge fines or even prison. Ye Jing looks up calmly and says he knows the rules well. He has done this for years. Most abyss scavengers are level 0 players. If a monster is missed, they can die at any time. It is a job that risks their lives. Meanwhile, people rush out of the blue gate carrying crystals. Survivors earn 300 yuan base pay. Scavengers get on 1,000th of the loot value, around 600 yuan. After a 30 yuan fee, he takes home 540. Ye Jing sighs at the crystal in his hand. He still owes 670,000 yuan. He has to work even harder. A nearby coworker is shocked. He did not expect the commission to reach 3,000ths. The man does not explain much. He casually invites Ye Jing to join their team since he always needs money. They are about to leave. Ye Jing agrees without hesitation. The bus carrying the group speeds down the road. All of them wear their work uniforms. On the way, they talk about Renmin Shopping Mall in Shenfeng City. It has been confirmed as an rank abyss dungeon. The danger is extreme, so the reward is huge. The first team that entered was wiped out in one wave. No survivors. That is why the mission was reassigned here. The group keeps complaining. Besides clearing the dungeon, they must also retrieve the equipment of the fallen team. Everyone feels exploited. The chatter continues, every word reaching Ye Jing's ears. He quietly watches outside the window, thinking about what they said. The abyss is being run like a business. 10 years ago, abyss gates suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Bloodred, oppressive, terrifying. Along with them, countless creatures from the abyss stepped into the human world. Only those who completed their class awakening had the power to actually hurt those creatures. When monsters died, they dropped not just magic cores but rare gear and abyss artifacts. And that discovery felt like humanity had just found a brand new continent. Traditional companies slowly vanished as all the money flowed into abyss industries, and Ye Jing still remembered being rejected again and again, just because he was a level 0 player. When his little sister was hospitalized in critical condition, the hospital demanded full payment up front, and Ye Jing could only bow and beg the doctor for more time as tears kept falling. Then came the debt collectors, and once they even showed up at his place, banging on the door and yelling, because he was 2 months behind on rent. Mockery and cold stares followed him everywhere, and in everyone's eyes he was nothing but a useless failure. A young man just stepping into adulthood was forced to survive under brutal pressure, and for level 0 players who couldn't awaken, society had already labeled them as trash. At his lowest point, a hand suddenly reached out to him, holding a business card that advertised instant cash loans. The owner of the card walked over and calmly asked if he needed money. Then the man said the most valuable collateral he had was his body, including his organs, and even knowing it was a trap, people pushed to the edge rarely refused that slim chance. Thinking of all that, Ye Jing finally pulled himself out of those heavy memories and let out a quiet sigh. Meanwhile, the people on the bus had moved on to gossips about someone who borrowed 1 million yuan in high-interest loans and lost it all in a failed investment. Hearing that, Ye Jing quietly lowered his cap to hide his pale face, as they continued talking about how the guy also had a sick sister with massive daily hospital bills. The bus was getting closer to the destination, but the chatter didn't stop, and some even said living like that was the same as suffering for life. When the group got off, someone was already waiting and complained that the scavenger team was late, while one of Ye Jing's coworkers could only smile awkwardly and apologize as they were warned to stay close to the combat squad. With that said, the combat team headed straight for the abyss gate and urged everyone to follow quickly. Watching their backs, Ye Jing silently swore that this trip he would make enough money and return safely. He glanced back at the peaceful city one last time, and the calm scenery made his eyes grow even quieter. Soon after, he stepped through the gate with the others, entering the People's Shopping Mall of Shenfeng City, a brank abyss. The moment he walked in, Ye Jing looked around with curiosity, because this was his first time inside an abyss of this level. But before they got far, danger appeared, and the people in front instantly raised their guard and drew their weapons. From the darkness, red-eyed shadow wolves rushed out, looking like predators locked onto prey. Sensing trouble, one warrior shouted to his teammates, and Lao Chen clicked his tongue in annoyance at running into monsters right after entering. The others quickly took their positions, thinking these were only level 1 shadow wolves, and Lao Chen stepped forward as power gathered in his hands, while the wolves lunged together. Without hesitation, Lao Chen fired 2 fireballs at the pack, and in the blink of an eye they were already at their targets. The shadow wolves had no time to react before violent explosions erupted, and the force from those small fireballs made them recoil in shock. Realizing the enemy wasn't easy prey, the beasts retreated and slowly vanished back into the deep shadows of the building. The man with the iron shield stayed alert and warned everyone that any blind spot could hide an ambush. At that moment, a man with glasses stepped forward and calmly asked where the exact objective of this mission was located. The shield-bearer pointed toward the upper floors and confirmed the target was on the 5th floor. But then the man in red observed the structure and dropped a chilling remark that the mall's size and height had expanded far beyond normal. After hearing that, the man with glasses explained this was abyssification, a dungeon copied from reality but completely twisted inside, then questioned why the previous team left no info about the bodies. At that, the man in red turned to the scavenger team and coldly ordered them to find the corpses instead of just dragging behind. While tying his shoelaces, Lao Chen let out a mocking laugh and said a level 0 wasn't even qualified to be called trash. Walking behind, Ye Jing was too focused on observing the area and didn't notice Lao Chen had stopped, crashing straight into him. The impact sent him crashing to the floor, his face slamming hard as Lao Chen immediately started yelling at him. Startled by the reaction, Ye Jing quickly turned and apologized over and over. But Lao Chen wasn't letting it go, grabbing Ye Jing by the collar, lifting him up, and shoving him against a metal railing while mocking him non-stop. Seeing things escalate, the shield-bearer stepped in and said the mission mattered more than internal conflict, while Ye Jing was being squeezed so hard he could barely breathe. Even after being stopped, Lao Chen still stared at him with pure disgust. In the end, he let go but warned Ye Jing to stay far away from him. Lying on the ground, Ye Jing silently picked up his fallen cap and cursed under his breath as Lao Chen kept complaining about this so-called professional lineup. Despite constant humiliation and endless danger in the abyss, Ye Jing had no intention of quitting and forced himself up to follow, carrying labels like burden, useless, and trash that stuck to every level 0 player. He adjusted his cap and quietly watched the group ahead with unreadable eyes, because there was one thing none of them knew. Ye Jing's experience bar was at 99 out of 100, just one tiny step away from level 1. The story returns to the beginning, where a ferocious monster snarled in front of Ye Jing's as the other scavengers screamed and scattered. He stood still and stared at the beast, because now there was only one left. Unlike the normal shadow wolves Lao Chen had driven off, this one was in a dangerous, bloodthirsty state. Ye Jing quickly scanned his surroundings for anything he could use. Soon, he spotted a level 1 shield and a level 1 wooden club at his feet. Before he could think further, the monster lunged at him, aiming to tear him apart. Ye Jing dodged to the side to avoid the fatal strike, knowing deep down this was the chance he had waited for. After the successful dodge, he steadied himself at a safe distance. The shadow wolf turned around, its red eyes locking onto him again. Taking a deep breath, Ye Jing leapt forward with both the shield and club raised high. The moment he closed in, he slammed the club down on the monster's head, with all his strength, shouting as the impact echoed through the room. He thought that blow would finish it, but a cold notification appeared before his eyes showing damage dealt was 0. Ye Jing froze in disbelief as distant scavengers shouted that it was no surprise he would die sooner or later since only awakened players could hurt monsters. He said nothing, replaying that strike in his mind, because he understood those rules better than anyone. Then his status panel appeared. Name Ye Jing, level 0, strength 1, agility 1, intelligence 1, constitution 1, luck 1. The monster gave him no time to think, forcing him to keep dodging while his bag was tossed aside. And with stats this pathetic, he couldn't even break the defense of the weakest beast. Grinding his teeth until they creaked, Ye Jing felt the cruelty of reality more clearly than ever. He used a nearby pipe as leverage and launched himself into the air. The beast, unable to think like a human, bit through the pipe as planned, while Ye Jing had already appeared right above its head. Seizing the moment, he poured everything into the next strike, and the wooden club crashed down with far more force than before. In another part of the mall, Lao Chen had just finished off a few monsters, and mocked that level 0s would tremble at even a dying beast. The shield bearer nearby smirked while holding a crystal he just looted, saying a few casual kills already paid well, while scavengers would almost certainly die if they met monsters. He then ordered the team to collect only the most valuable items, and leave the rest to the scavenger team, since that was their job. The man in red pointed into the distance, and reminded them there were still a few monsters left. Right then, terrified screams from the scavenger team echoed from another area after they encountered a beast. The man in a tank top laughed, saying it was exactly as expected, while Lao Chen turned toward the noise and declared the purple gear he spotted was his alone. Across the mall, cries for help continued to ring out non-stop. Back at Yi Jing's battlefield, the fight had dragged on until both he and the monster were covered in blood, their injuries so severe it was hard to tell who was worse. Yi Jing widened his eyes and forced himself to endure the pain spreading through his body. The wooden club in his hand was almost broken, but he treated it as his final hope and raised it again with one thought: he could not fall here. The instant he got close, he thrust forward with all his strength and stabbed straight into the monster's eye, and blood burst out instantly. This time the beast truly screamed in pain and loosened its grip on him as a system notice appeared. Critical hit activated. Damage dealt 1. The monster's massive body trembled and collapsed, and for the first time a level 0 scavenger had killed it, while Yi Jing dropped to the ground in exhaustion. Gasping for air, he showed a deeply satisfied smile because after countless failures he finally saw results. A faint laugh echoed in the quiet space. That weak laughter slowly turned into a hoarse roar of release, as if he was pouring out years of pain and refusal to surrender. At that moment, Lao Chen walked over from a distance and stopped not far from him, and Yi Jing noticed him too. Seeing the corpse on the ground, Lao Chen looked slightly surprised and asked if Yi Jing had really killed this low-level shadow wolf alone. But the next second he grabbed Yi Jing by the collar and lifted him up like an object, demanding to know if he was trying to play hero or was tired of living. His harsh yelling rang in Yi Jing's ears, because in Lao Chen's eyes scavengers were hired tools, not fighters meant to risk their lives. Yet Yi Jing no longer cared. He knew a crucial secret. There was more than one path to class awakening, and once reaching level 1, even a level 0 player could trigger a new class with a higher chance at a hidden one. He recalled watching awakened players fight monsters, knowing that to reach that goal he first needed enough experience to level up. But for someone who couldn't deal damage, it was almost impossible, so he scraped together tiny points one by one. 1, 2. For years, Yi Jing never gave up and kept searching for flaws in monsters, just to create even the slightest bit of damage. From reckless fights against low-level beasts, he saved every tiny point of experience as the bar slowly climbed. 3, 4, then 7. It kept inching forward. 10, 18, 30, 50, 60. Finally, it reached 99, and the recent battle gave the last piece because dealing just 1 point of damage granted 1 experience. The experience bar officially hit 100. The smile on Yi Jing's face grew clearer as he looked straight at Lao Chen and calmly said this was the only reason he fought so desperately. Right after that, the system announced the conditions were met, and his experience value rose from 99 out of 100 to 100 out of 100. A series of notifications flooded his vision, and what Yi Jing had waited years for finally arrived. Eligible for level up. Seeing light suddenly erupt around him, Lao Chen froze in shock because he never expected this level 0 to truly accumulate enough experience to awaken. Yi Jing's body was wrapped in radiant light as the system kept congratulating him for reaching level 1. After a few seconds of darkness, his class awakening result appeared. New class, Corpse Collector Scavenger, and even Yi Jing froze at those words. Even Lao Chen stood there stunned for a few seconds. But soon, the shock on his face turned into amusement. Lao Chen burst into laughter, laughing so hard tears came out because to him struggling to awaken only to stay a scavenger was a complete joke. Still laughing, he patted Yi Jing's shoulder and said the most precious chance of his life only changed the job title, which in his eyes was the perfect match for someone so low. Suddenly, Lao Chen stopped laughing and coldly announced that the other scavengers were all gone, and from now on, Yi Jing would handle the cleanup alone. After saying that, he turned and walked away, even calling the others over to share the hilarious story he had just witnessed. Yi Jing lowered his head and looked at his blood-covered hands, unsure whether it was his blood or the monster's, and wondered if the Corpse Collector Scavenger was truly that weak. Yet mockery like this could not break him, though he noticed this level 1 class did not grant bonus stats like others. His gaze shifted to the monster's corpse on the ground, because what he wanted to know now was the real ability of his new class. Right at that moment, the corpse suddenly floated into the air, wrapped in strange light, and the system displayed. Recyclable corpse detected. Low-level demonic wolf. Yi Jing's eyes widened as another prompt appeared, asking whether he wished to recycle it. After a brief hesitation, he made his choice. Instantly, a bizarre crack opened in space, and countless hands stretched out from somewhere deep and dark. Yi Jing stared in shock at the scene before him. The hands grabbed the corpse and dragged it into the crack, and he realized this was the signature ability of the Corpse Collector Scavenger. He carefully observed the entire process, a sight both eerie and chilling. When the corpse fully disappeared, the system showed processing recyclable materials, and moments later a box appeared with a completion notice, leaving Yi Jing blinking in surprise. The system then granted rewards: a card bearing the image of the processed monster, 3 free attribute points, and a skill called Soul Wolf, and Yi Jing immediately wondered if the points could be assigned freely. At his thought, his status panel reopened with familiar stats and a plus sign behind each one. The system informed him that the newly obtained skill required at least 3 agility to activate. Without much hesitation, Yi Jing invested all 3 new points into agility. After allocation, the system confirmed he met the skill requirements, and his agility now reached 4, exceeding the minimum. Yi Jing immediately chose to activate the skill. A stream of green energy flowed into his body, and he felt a clear transformation throughout his entire being. When he opened his eyes, faint green light swirled around him, yet aside from that, he noticed no obvious change. The system gave no further explanation, and right then someone in the distance shouted at him to hurry up and clean the remaining loot. Yi Jing dashed forward at once, and the moment his feet touched the ground, he felt his body much lighter. As soon as he moved, he realized something was different because his speed had clearly increased, while his movements felt incredibly smooth. But being too fast had its downside, and he failed to see a pipe blocking his path, tripping over it and rolling hard across the floor. A sudden scream echoed through the building, and it came from none other than Yi Jing. Even with his head spinning from the fall, he could not help thinking that this must be the power of his new skill. Just then, the system interface appeared as if alive, showing Soul Shock was still on cooldown, and Yi Jing laughed after confirming his guess. He pushed himself up and took several deep breaths to calm down. As his eyes focused forward, Yi Jing's pupils suddenly shrank. In front of him lay piles of monster corpses, and the system kept notifying him they were recyclable, making him realize the Corpse Collector Scavenger could not only gain attributes, but also had a chance to obtain monster skills. As if he had just solved the biggest puzzle, he smiled in satisfaction. This class was way stronger than he expected. The system kept spamming notifications: 4 free stat points, then 3, then 2 more. Another 1 point popped up. Yi Jing quickly realized that ever since he got Soul Impact from Sword Wraith, the same type of corpses stopped giving new skills, and the stat rewards kept dropping. It seemed skill rewards only triggered when recycling a monster he had never seen before. Thinking that, he pointed ahead and ordered the scrap machines to keep working, while the system kept feeding him more points. At the same time, he opened his status panel and saw his unused stat points had reached a 111. Staring at that massive number, Yi Jing began thinking about where to invest them. Then a mischievous idea flashed through his mind, and he grinned. In the end, he split the points evenly. Notifications exploded: strength up, agility up, spirit up, willpower up, constitution up, luck up. The updated panel showed Yi Jing, level 1 maxed, strength 20, agility 20, spirit 20, willpower 20, constitution 20, luck 20. Meanwhile, somewhere else, battle sounds echoed as a team finished off the last few monsters. Someone shouted that only 2 were left. Soon after, another monster dropped. The shield bearer turned to Lao Chen and asked if Yi Jing had really advanced into Corpse Collector, since it was a hidden class he had never seen before. The man with glasses explained that new hidden classes appeared every year, but the toe-pranked valuable ones rarely changed. Most hidden classes were just support roles. Lao Chen agreed and added that this class was capped at level 1 for now, probably low tier and barely stronger than normal people. The shield bearer looked annoyed and cut the talk short. He signaled the team to move forward and stay alert. The others responded in unison and followed behind. But just minutes later, they all froze. In front of them stood twisted trees growing out of a strange mound of earth. Lao Chen spoke first, confirming they had found the mission target: Hawkeye the Hunter, captain of the guild's hunting squad. A cloaked member questioned how a dirt mound could appear on the 5th floor of a mall. The man with glasses felt uneasy, but stepped forward to inspect. He noted the place had been abyss-corrupted for less than 48 hours, yet the bodies were drained dry in a terrifying way. The closer he looked, the colder he felt, as if some magic had sucked out their life force. The shield-bearer also sensed something wrong. They had only met low-level wraiths, yet a brank hunting squad was wiped out here. Just then, the man with glasses felt movement beneath his feet and instantly turned around. The sight made him scream. From all directions, hundreds of undead charged at them at once. At the same time, an emergency city broadcast came through, but it was already too late. The People's Mall in Shenf City had undergone abyss corruption, first rated as Blevel mutation, but the missing count had now risen to 217. The shield-bearer immediately shouted for a full retreat. He realized they had walked straight into a carefully prepared trap. While fighting off the rushing undead, Lao Chen yelled that now he understood why no missing bodies were found. They had all been gathered here. Swinging his shield to knock the undead away, the shield-bearer understood that the weak monsters along the path were just bait to lure them deeper. Suddenly, a deafening roar exploded as the ground burst open, and a giant monstrous flower emerged. The shield-bearer tightened his grip and said in a low voice that this must be the true mastermind behind the abyss corruption. One glance was enough for everyone to recognize it. A high-level, hell-man-eating flower, a deadly Arank creature. Suddenly, Lao Chen pointed upward in panic and shouted. The previously dead Hawkeye squad appeared again, diving down from above at terrifying speed. Meanwhile, on Yi Jing's side, the system continued calmly announcing the recycling of each defeated wraith. Not long after, a new message appeared. Achievement unlocked. Rookie corpse collector. For recycling 50 corpses. Yi Jing let out a relieved, excited breath. Then the system announced an additional reward, instantly sparking his curiosity. The reward was revealed. A level 1 common dagger. Yi Jing stared at it for a few seconds. The requirement was only level 1, and he almost laughed. Even the achievement reward fit the scavenger vibe perfectly. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed from behind him. The noise grew clearer in the silent space. Sensing danger, Yi Jing spun around. A monster was charging straight at him. For a split second, he froze. But his upgraded body reacted fast, dodging the sneak attack in time. His agility test was proven with a perfect evade. After escaping, Yi Jing let out a sharp breath and cursed under his breath. That scare almost made him think he was dead. Then he realized how different his body felt. Lighter, faster. The stat points were clearly working. Clenching his fist, Yi Jing felt raw power flowing through him. The monster gave him no time to think and lunged again. Strangely, every movement of the creature felt slow and readable. Yi Jing tilted his body aside, letting it crash past him and slam both hands into the wall. Seizing the chance, he grabbed its arm and hurled it away. The new strength felt amazing, not just faster, but way stronger. He pushed off the ground and activated Soul Impact. Never feeling this powerful before, Yi Jing rushed in with a thunderous punch. After advancing, he could finally fight for real. With one blow, the monster was sent flying. Yi Jing laughed. This time he wasn't dealing 0 damage. The system confirmed the strength check. The hit triggered armor break and doubled physical damage. The monster trembled in pain, letting out hoarse groans. Wiping blood from his lip, Yi Jing smiled confidently. He was no longer weak. The system added that with 20 spirit points, his perception had greatly improved, allowing him to see hidden target information. Though badly injured, the monster stood up again. Thanks to the new ability, Yi Jing read its data instantly. Elite parasitized human, weakness, fire and neck joints. The creature roared violently. It charged again, determined to finish this. Yi Jing had no intention of backing down. The clash turned fierce as both sides exchanged heavy blows. Even while fighting, Yi Jing carefully observed every move. He was waiting for the perfect opening to strike the vital point. After testing it for a while, he confirmed the neck was the kill spot. He decided to use sword card. The blade formed in his hand. Yi Jing stabbed straight into the back of its neck. Luck effect and common dagger triggered together, causing bleed. The monster froze briefly. The plant-like parasites on its body began cracking and falling apart. The system confirmed the elite parasitized human was eliminated. Its heavy body collapsed to the ground. Blood splattered everywhere, staining both the sword and Yi Jing's hand red. But with 20 constitution, the toxins in the blood were instantly neutralized. Looking at the sword, Yi Jing couldn't hide his satisfaction. This was the first monster he had killed with his own hands. The system offered the option to recycle the parasitized human's corpse. Yi Jing accepted without hesitation. Recycling complete. He gained a passive skill, Toxic Conversion. All poison effects would reverse into random buffs, as long as constitution was above 15. After reading the description, Yi Jing immediately understood. What once harmed him could now empower him. He learned it at once. The new passive was added successfully, and the system rewarded 5 free stat points. When the panel appeared again, all his core stats were already at 20. After the monster fell, an item dropped in front of him, Mutation Potion. The system warned that it contained extreme toxicity and should never be consumed. Holding the bottle, Yi Jing thought about toxic conversion. If poison could really turn into buffs, then what would happen if he drank it? Thinking that through, Yi Jing decided to test it himself. Even knowing it was dangerous, he drank it without hesitation. Instantly, notifications flooded in. The poison was reversed by toxic conversion into healing effects. His wounds vanished at visible speed. On top of that, he gained clear mind, doubling all base stats for 10 minutes. Feeling the surge of power, even he was shocked by how broken it was. Yi Jing quickly opened his status panel. Remembering that higher spirit unlocked hidden info, he poured all 5 new stat points into spirit. The attribute panel updated immediately. While studying the changes, familiar roars echoed from behind. Yi Jing glanced back and frowned. There were still monsters left? But he soon realized it wasn't that simple. The number appearing this time was far beyond expectations. At that moment, countless mocking voices from his past flashed through his mind. Useless, dead weight, trash who could never amount to anything. But now, everything was different. Fueled by new power and years of frustration, Ye Jing roared proudly, declaring himself the corpse collector and openly challenging every monster in front of him. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the building, the shield bearer shouted in horror after realizing the Hawkeye squad had been fully parasitized. The team was already struggling, and now the enemies were even more terrifying. While defending, the shield bearer realized these parasitized corpses were more dangerous than when they were alive. And behind them loomed the rank hell man-eating flower. The pressure forced him to order a full retreat. No one objected. They all turned and ran at top speed. Unfortunately, luck was not on their side. One by one, they were taken down. The cloaked member fell first, calling out in despair before collapsing. The man with glasses soon met the same fate. The shield bearer didn't dare look back. He kept running, while Lao Chen ahead completely lost his composure under the monster's terrifying strength. The two pushed forward. The shield bearer stayed behind, using his shield to block the pursuers. As he ran, Lao Chen calculated non-stop. He came for rewards and gear. Dying here was not worth it. Just as the shield bearer tried to speed up, a slowing spell suddenly fell on him. In disbelief, he turned to Lao Chen and demanded an explanation. They were teammates. The only reply was a cold apology. Lao Chen admitted he planned to use him as bait to stall the monsters. After casting the spell, he shoved the shield bearer back and kept running. He even pretended he would burn incense for him later. Surrounded by monsters, the shield bearer had no chance. Before dying, he could only reach toward Lao Chen with eyes full of hatred. Lao Chen believed he had escaped. As he ran, he smugly thought he could take the loot and blame the team's wipe on the mission. What he didn't know was that someone was waiting ahead. Suddenly, a scream rang out. Lao Chen fell hard to the ground. When he looked up, Ye Jing was standing in his way. His eyes widened in disbelief. Ye Jing was nothing like the weak man who entered the mall earlier. His gaze was cold and oppressive, looking down like a superior. Lao Chen instantly recognized the man he once looked down on. Then his eyes shifted to the undead gathering behind Ye Jing, and fear gripped him. Forcing himself up, Lao Chen stared at Ye Jing and guessed that everything happening here was connected to him. Even at a disadvantage, Lao Chen plotted to eliminate Ye Jing. If Ye Jing survived and reported this, he would be finished. So he began provoking him. To Ye Jing, he looked like a clown struggling to survive. Lao Chen tempted him with talk of power and tried to push him toward becoming monster bait. The moment he finished speaking, Lao Chen kicked hard to knock Ye Jing down. But Ye Jing stood like a steel wall, unmoving. The system displayed. Strength check failed. The attack had no effect and even rebounded back. The rebound sent Lao Chen flying backward. He slammed onto the ground, screaming in pain, having no idea what just happened. Ye Jing's eyes turned icy. Lao Chen had crossed the line. Staring down at him, Ye Jing said coldly that he didn't even deserve to be called human. Then Ye Jing summoned the corpse collector machine. It appeared behind him, towering and oppressive. On command, it grabbed Lao Chen and dragged him back. Realizing he was about to be recycled, Lao Chen screamed and begged in pure panic. But a red X flashed on the machine. Target not eligible for recovery. Ye Jing walked over and crouched in front of him, mocking lightly. So not everyone could be recycled. Lao Chen seemed unconscious now, maybe even dead. The system then displayed a new card, Useless Ability Retrieval. It allowed him to take a target's skill with their consent. Another 3-minute spell experience card appeared as well. Ye Jing quickly understood. For someone unconscious like Lao Chen, the system treated it as consent. Honestly, that was convenient. After using the spell experience card, a faint blue light covered him. He gained a fire-type skill. Fireball required at least 15 spirit, and since Ye Jing far exceeded that, it was upgraded directly into Greater Flame. At the same time, the undead outside finally tracked him down. They crowded in like starving beasts. The glass doors would not hold for long. Ye Jing decided to test the new skill. He recalled how the mage had cast it before, and tried to mimic the feeling. Without overthinking, he hurled the fireball into the center of the horde. A massive explosion followed. The blast shook the entire mall floor. When the dust settled, only Ye Jing stood in the ruined area. But instead of celebrating, he grabbed his head in regret. The monsters were blown to pieces before he could recycle them. Just then, a dual-blade undead lunged at him from behind. Even distracted, Ye Jing's awareness never dropped. He dodged the lethal strike by a hair. The two faced off directly, ready for a real fight. Ye Jing's expression turned completely serious. He relied on speed to evade the relentless slashes. He countered with his sword, but each strike was blocked or matched. After a few exchanges, Ye Jing realized his close combat experience was still lacking. A quick kill would not be easy. In that moment, his eyes shifted to the corpse collector machine, still processing bodies nearby. Among them was the fallen shield bearer. After a brief thought, Ye Jing decided to turn that leftover strength into his own resource. Once recovery was complete, a golden card with a shield emblem appeared. Without hesitation, Ye Jing activated it. The shield bearer's power transformed into a usable ability. Using the newly gained shield, Ye Jing blocked the undead's attack, then slashed back and finished it off. Another life ended. Another story closed in the twisted form of a parasitized corpse. Ye Jing reached toward the body and quietly bid farewell before recycling it. The system rewarded him with dagger mastery, granting thief-level dagger skills and razor-sharp strikes. He used it instantly. The system confirmed completion. A flood of familiarity filled his mind, making dagger control feel natural. He was extremely satisfied. In front of him, countless monsters still surged like a tide. Meanwhile, elsewhere, an interrogation voice asked whether the original mission was to find the Hawkeye squad and escort them out of the dungeon. The narration continued steadily. The voice added that if their bodies were not recovered, the mission would be marked as failure, meaning no payment at all. As the conversation carried on, Ye Jing kept fighting. Every monster that rushed him was struck at its weak point and dropped instantly. After another successful recovery, he gained Frenzy Transformation, massively boosting strength and speed, while granting temporary immunity to crowd control. The man under interrogation answered with a trembling voice that he knew that very well. The interrogator calmly asked if they had truly found the Hawkeye squad's bodies inside. The survivor suddenly slammed the table and shouted. He insisted they did find Hawkeye, but every corpse had been taken by someone. The interrogator pressed further about this so-called recovery. This time, the survivor's fear turned into pure trauma. Just recalling it made him look like he was reliving a nightmare dragging him into the abyss. The scene shifted back to the city. Inside the Abyss Supervision Committee's interrogation room, the questioning continued. Lao Chen sat there pale, recounting everything he experienced. But the investigators did not believe him. Records showed he was the only survivor in the dungeon. The mysterious figure he mentioned did not exist. Even stranger, when rescued, his level had dropped by 1, something unheard of. At the mention of Ye Jing, Lao Chen lost control. He jumped up, face twisted, screaming that his abilities had been stolen. Losing a level was proof. The culprit was the corpse collector. But after shouting, he fell into panic again, stammering as if unsure of his own story. The two investigators exchanged confused looks. In the end, they concluded Lao Chen's abyss corruption level was too high, causing post-dungeon hallucinations. No matter how loudly he protested, no one believed him. Ironically, the man who once mocked others as trash was now treated like a joke. Elsewhere, Ye Jing had already left the Brank Abyss Gate. After selling his magic crystals on the black market, he only received about 30% of their real value, since the market was controlled by major factions. Even so, it was enough to clear years of debt. But Ye Jing understood his ability was too special. If people learned he could recycle corpses and steal abilities, he would be reported to the committee. The corpse collector mark was clearly visible on his hand. After reaching level 1, just owning such a strange class was enough to get him locked away for research. So before attracting attention, he needed to gather as many resources as possible. At that moment, near a newly formed abyss gate, a coordinator announced loudly. The area was unexplored and extremely dangerous, but rewards would be doubled. Requirement: awakened individuals with rank aptitude or higher. Ye Jing pushed forward and pointed at himself, asking if he qualified. The coordinator looked at him and asked for his class and level. Without hesitation, Ye Jing raised his mark and loudly introduced himself as level 1 corpse collector. Laughter erupted everywhere. Even the coordinator mocked him. In their eyes, a trash picker claiming to be a class changer was ridiculous. He belonged in a garbage zone, not here. Ye Jing frowned slightly when grabbed, but he was not angry. This was part of his plan. The weaker he appeared, the less attention he drew. If assigned to logistics, he could quietly recycle corpses in the back. Just as things grew tense, a cold female voice ordered the man to let go. The moment he saw her, his expression changed. It was Liu Qingran, heiress of the Liu family and owner of the Divine Chosen class. Liu Qingran stepped forward and calmly declared that her team had 1 slot left, and Ye Jing would join them. Whispers spread instantly. She was a rising star of the Grand Legion Guild, said to be favored by the gods. The coordinator hesitated, pointing out Ye Jing was only level 1 with no certification. Before he could finish, Liu Qingran cut him off. New or old did not matter to her. Even if everyone was level 1, it made no difference. In her eyes, the rest were trash anyway. One sentence completely changed the coordinator's attitude. From mocking to respectful in seconds, he agreed to everything she said. After all, this place belonged to the Liu family. Standing beside her, Ye Jing quietly sighed in relief. Without her stepping in, his profit plan would have ended right there. The moment he finally relaxed, Ye Jing noticed Liu Qingran had been staring at him the whole time. His guard went up instantly, yet the more he looked at her, the more she felt familiar. After a brief pause, an old memory surfaced from 2 years ago. Back then, Liu Qingran was cornered by a beast, and Ye Jing stepped in with nothing but a tree branch. He aimed for the weak spot and drove it straight into the monster's throat. The fatal strike dropped it on the spot. Once she caught her breath, Liu Xingran asked if he was from a recovery squad and how he killed it. But Yi Jing barely listened, celebrating like crazy because he had just earned his first experience point. After calming down, he awkwardly asked if she was hurt, while she muttered that she had only heard rumors about leveling this way. She stared at him, confused, and asked why he would risk his life just for experience. Yi Jing answered simply, it was for money, while she pressed on, and he just stared at the fallen magic cores, knowing they were not his. Only then did he say someone like her would never understand how hard life is for the weak. He shot back a question, asking why she ran alone into such a deadly area and what she was trying to prove. Liu Xingran replied without hesitation that she wanted to grow stronger and be the first to clear that place. That phrase caught his attention, but instead of explaining, she asked what his real goal was. Yi Jing said he wanted enough power to protect his family, and that answer stayed with her long after. He simply told her his name. She reached out her hand, introduced herself as Liu Xingran, and even invited him to join her team someday. It had been a long time since anyone tried to befriend Yi Jing. They shook hands and teased each other, until her bodyguards arrived and warned him to stay away from their young miss. Despite her wanting to talk more, they hurried her away, fearing the guild leader's wrath. Before leaving, she suddenly tossed him a crystal and told him to catch it. Yi Jing caught it smoothly, and from afar she smiled and said it was a thank you gift. He nodded and walked off, and back in the present, he tried to recall her name. The man beside him knocked his head and reminded him it was Liu Xingran, then told him to move the spirit stones. Before leaving, Yi Jing glanced at her again and silently vowed to catch up to her one day. Seeing everyone assembled, Liu Xingran ordered the team to gear up and prepare to move. The squad followed immediately, and strange sounds were already echoing from beyond the gate. With firm resolve, Yi Jing moved forward, aiming to earn more money and return alive. Before setting off, he reviewed the rewards from his last Abyss battle. That included the Shield Warrior's control ability, and most importantly, the Bastier energy he had absorbed. He also still had the Man-Eating Flower ability card, and several rare skills he had collected. Thanks to his balanced hexagon stat build, Yi Jing had almost no clear weakness, and every total stat had already passed 100. As he stepped through the gate, he wondered what level 100 truly meant in terms of power. His eyes lit up as he activated his observation skill to check everyone's stats. After scanning them, Yi Jing clicked his tongue, because the strongest barely had 12 strength, while some only had 1 point in intelligence. If 1 point equaled a normal person, then 12 meant 12 times stronger, and he had 100. That thought made him eager to test it right away. He suddenly stopped and threw a punch at the wall beside him. The entire area shook for seconds, and the people ahead turned around asking if it was an earthquake. Yi Jing panicked and quickly held the cracking wall, joking that the underground city was poorly built. Just then, a shout from the front grabbed everyone's attention. A treasure chest appeared, and a man called High Dog frowned, saying it was at least a rank, but they had no rogue. From the back, Yi Jing slowly raised his hand and offered to try. Everyone stepped aside, and with a few simple moves, he unlocked it like it was nothing. Hey Dog stared in shock, since that skill was for level 5 rogues, so Yi Jing quickly claimed corpse collectors often dealt with locked chests. Hey Dage did not question further, stored the loot, and said rewards would be split after the mission. As they moved on, Yi Jing suddenly told the guide to stop, because something felt off ahead. Without explaining, he picked up a stone and hurled it forward. Instantly, spikes shot out from both walls, revealing a deadly trap. The girl stared at him in disbelief, wondering how a level 1 could detect that. Realizing he overdid it again, Yi Jing lied that years of corpse collecting had taught him to sense danger. The others believed him, and the system even confirmed his lie succeeded, showing the power of 100 intelligence. In a good mood, High Dage tossed him a broken level 1 gear as a reward, and Yi Jing could only smile awkwardly. After walking further, they discovered a special chamber that looked like the dungeon's final treasure room. In the center stood a stone tablet and a stone cup filled with strange liquid, said to be a rare abyss reward room with no monsters. Even so, Liu Xingran ordered everyone to stay alert while one member picked up the tablet. Just as he signaled to leave, the stone cup behind him suddenly began to boil. A system message appeared, announcing the start of a bloodline test as the red liquid shot into the air. Everyone's faces changed as they realized this was not a reward room, but a perfectly disguised trap. Before their horrified eyes, the floating blood slowly formed into a creature called the Blood-Colored Nightmare. Seeing the situation turn dire, Liu Xingran drew her sword and ordered battle formation as blood demons closed in from all sides. Yi Jing readied his weapon and put on the stat-suppressing ring, deciding to use only a quarter of his true power. He once thought the ring was useless, but now it was perfect for hiding his strength. Without hesitation, the whole team charged into battle. Yi Jing instantly activated Soul Charge. The battlefield turned chaotic as both sides clashed non-stop. With a single strike, Yi Jing took down his target. That performance drew even more attention from Lu Xingran. She glanced briefly in his direction. Then she moved again, cutting down the monsters in her path. One teammate shouted in surprise, saying the creatures shattered too easily. But his face turned pale when he saw them slowly reforming. Worse, the blood-colored nightmares were taking on human shapes, copying abilities as they fought, and growing stronger each second. Still, he did not care and sliced one's head clean off. A female teammate even laughed, saying the copy looked pretty accurate. But in the next second, the severed head regenerated instantly. The man froze in horror. The blood nightmare countered with a powerful slash no one expected. His arm was cut off on the spot, blood spraying everywhere as the team panicked. Seeing his pain, the monster rushed in again. It was clearly going for the kill. Just as the sword was about to fall, the creature suddenly froze. Lu Xingran appeared above it and sealed it in ice, coldly mocking her teammate's weakness. She gave it no chance to resist. With one crushing move, she shattered the frozen blood nightmare completely. The gap between a top genius and ordinary fighters was obvious, yet countless blood nightmares were still charging in. The female mage protecting the injured man grew flustered, unable to finish a heightier spell in time. At that critical moment, Yi Jing stepped in front of them, thinking simply, if weapons cannot kill them, then erase them entirely. He unleashed great explosive flame, triggering a massive explosion. Everyone nearby was stunned, recognizing it as a rare Shrank fire spell. No one understood how a so-called level 1 could use such power. Meanwhile, Ye Jing calmly observed the monsters, feeling they were not that hard to handle. The creatures kept swarming forward. Yi Jing suddenly let out a loud roar. The shockwave caused a brief moment of paralysis. Seizing the chance, he activated Berserker Frenzy, boosting his speed and attack power. He struck with full force. The blood nightmare in front of him was smashed into pieces. But to his surprise, it soon regenerated into a complete form again. The female mage looked toward the evolving creature in the distance, sensing something terribly wrong. Someone screamed in fear after realizing the monster's rank had reached king tier. Yi Jing instantly understood. The blood-colored nightmares had copied his stats and evolved into a king. The fully formed giant monster immediately launched an attack. With a single blow, the ground split apart. Watching its power, Ye Jing realized its stats were nearly equal to his own. At that moment, Lu Xingran stepped forward and told him to fall back. Her eyes locked onto the blood nightmare king, believing this opponent was hers to defeat. After saying that, Lu Xingran stepped forward to fight. She accelerated and rushed straight onto the giant body of the monster. The sword in her hand moved instantly. A sharp slash came down without hesitation. The battle turned intense as she searched for chances to freeze it. From below, Ye Jing reminded her about using an ice domain to control it. But the blood nightmare king was almost immune. It suddenly shifted its focus to Lu Xingran. The counterattack came too fast for her to react. Her sword was knocked away. Luckily, she dodged the killing blow and pulled back. For the first time, Lu Xingran felt true helplessness. She remembered her bodyguards warning her that the abyss energy felt abnormal. Back then, she did not even understand fear. Her only goal was to conquer the end of 7 Black, yet compared to her siblings, she was still far behind. The gap between them had grown so wide, she could only watch their backs. That very thought pushed her forward. If she could not pass this abyss, she did not deserve the Lu name. A streak of icy swordlight tore through the air. Every eye on the battlefield focused on her. Then Lu Xingran summoned something special. It was the Icebone Banner, boosting all allies within 30 meters. When the banner pierced into the ground, frost spread everywhere, freezing the area including the blood nightmare. The enhancement effect activated instantly. Ice naturally countered blood-based creatures, and sealing it would reduce the threat. Seizing the moment, she leaped into the air and unleashed a powerful strike at its head. Watching everything, Ye Jing could not help but admire the power of Ensrank's chosen profession. But her expression soon changed when she realized it was barely affected. The wound healed almost instantly. Less than a second later, the blood nightmare launched a fierce counterattack. Lu Xingran knew that even with Ensrank class, her current strength was still below her siblings. Since childhood, she had been called the weakest of the Lu family and told to stay home. That only made her more determined to grow stronger. While dodging its attacks, she shouted her resolve to surpass everyone one day. Her blade pierced straight through the monster's head, but both she and Ye Jing turned pale at the same time. Another blood arm had formed behind her, ready to strike. The sneak attack hit hard, making her cough blood and fall, and one teammate even suggested fleeing. Meanwhile, the blood nightmare raised its weapon for the final blow. Yi Jing could not stand by anymore. He immediately stepped in. The giant blood arm was smashed off and crashed onto the ground. That gave Lu Xingran the chance to stand up and escape immediate danger. She looked at Yi Jing in shock. Yi Jing, however, charged like a madman, attacking non-stop. As he fought, he used observation to search for weaknesses, knowing King Deer monsters resist debuffs. High enough rank could even grant immunity to freeze, stun, paralysis, and slow. After a brief thought, Ye Jing stopped holding back and released all his true stats. His power exploded, and every strike carried terrifying force, blowing apart the blood nightmare again and again. The monster let out painful screams. But the more damage it took, the more savage it became, forcing Ye Jing to keep moving. Behind him, Liu Xingran recovered with a potion and slowly regained combat strength. Meanwhile, Ye Jing continued fighting the Blood Nightmare King alone. Watching him attack and observe at the same time, the others thought he was distracted. In truth, Ye Jing was searching for its real weakness. No matter how many times he destroyed its body, it regenerated instantly, and after careful observation, he still found nothing obvious. It felt like the monster was just a puppet controlled by something else. And right then, an idea flashed in his mind. Ye Jing shouted about the stone tablet from earlier, saying it triggered a bloodline test and must be linked to the blood nightmare, then told them to throw it over. The man holding the stone reacted immediately. He kicked it straight toward Ye Jing. The moment Ye Jing touched it, the system unlocked the ancient text, revealing the method to break the blood curse, and the answer had been in front of them all along. While blaming himself for missing that clue, the blood nightmare lunged at him again. Without hesitation, Ye Jing kicked the stone straight into the monster's mouth. Instantly, an invincible state was activated. Everyone was shocked to see the monster freeze in place, while Ye Jing clicked his tongue, knowing things just got troublesome. He cursed under his breath and said the monster had entered invincibility mode. At that moment, Liu Xingran walked over and said his face looked strangely familiar. Ye Jing laughed and reminded her of their meeting 2 years ago in the abyss. Liu Xingran searched her memory and slowly recalled the boy who gained experience from her battle. A few seconds later, she finally called out his name, Ye Jing. She smiled like greeting an old friend, surprised he had truly achieved his job change. Ye Jing smiled back and introduced himself as a level 1 corpse collector. Even so, Liu Xingran found it hard to believe how much he had grown. Seeing her stare in silence, Ye Jing grew a little embarrassed. Meanwhile, she silently blamed herself for not being strong enough. Regaining her composure, she analyzed that the stone was moving inside the blood nightmare's body, and she would freeze it while Ye Jing pinpointed its exact location. Hearing that, Ye Jing laughed and said no one could solve everything alone. He reached out his hand and proposed teaming up for 5 gold coins. Liu Xingran paused at the unexpected gesture. In the end, she took his hand and agreed, warning him not to slow her down. The others also spoke up, saying they wanted to fight together. Rarely so fired up, Ye Jing shouted for everyone to move, with one goal: survive. The entire team regrouped and prepared their final plan. The system warned that the invincible state would end in seconds, and a berserk phase would follow, capable of destroying the area in 30 seconds. After hearing the countdown, Ye Jing looked at everyone and said this was their last chance to make it out alive. Even though everyone was shaking with fear, they shouted in unison that they would survive no matter what. That fierce will to live changed the whole atmosphere, and the system confirmed the morale boost had activated. Liu Xingran instantly felt it. Her fatigue vanished, and her mana recovery surged for a short time. She turned to look at Ye Jing, who was still hyping everyone up to keep fighting. A faint smile appeared on her lips. The so-called weakest one clearly had a hidden edge. Then she quickly started assigning roles to everyone. The frontline warrior stepped up to face the blood demon, forcing down his fear and provoking it non-stop to draw aggro. The monster roared wildly, but the warrior kept shouting to keep its focus locked on him. Liu Xingran kept commanding, ordering the archer to target the newly grown tentacles and protect the corpse collector at all costs. The archer immediately followed the command. He moved without hesitation. A protective barrier was raised to shield Ye Jing's position. While analyzing, Ye Jing concluded the stone was the key to breaking the blood curse, and destroying it with brute force would erase their only chance. After glancing at his hands, he proposed something insane. He would pull the stone out with his bare hands. Liu Xingran was stunned. Was he planning to dive straight into the blood dream nightmare's body? Ye Jing prepared his ability and clarified. He would not go inside. He would pierce straight through and rip the stone out, even though doubt still lingered. Liu Xingran chose to trust him and ordered the archer to shoot down nearby rocks to create footholds for his next jump. Yang Gong instantly drew his bow and locked onto the target. The arrow left the string in a flash of blinding light. It shot straight toward the base of the house where the blood demon was clinging. Liu Xingran announced she would freeze the lower body of the blood dream nightmare and leave the rest. Ye Jing immediately took over and shouted for her to leave it to him. The whole team moved according to their assigned roles. Liu Xingran and Ye Jing pushed forward at the same time. As he advanced, Ye Jing weaved through the blood demon's relentless attacks. He analyzed that its insane regeneration made minor wounds meaningless, and another cut had already opened on his body. Meanwhile, Liu Xingran summoned the Bone Frost banner and coordinated with him in a chained assault. Ye Jing observed carefully. and confirmed he had found the weak spot. This area was clearly easier to pierce. But his current speed was still not enough. He knew that 1 second slower would erase everyone's chance to live. With no choice left, Ye Jing stacked speed items, downed potions, and reversed their toxicity to push his speed even higher. The card he picked up at the abyss entrance finally activated, boosting his defense as a bonus effect. This was the final step of his Allen strike. His whole body shot forward like a human rocket. But the blood demon sensed the danger and launched a counterattack. Ye Jing twisted midair to dodge, cursing under his breath. Everyone below held their breath in silence. Dodging at such speed made him lose control, and he was blasted far away. Blood spilled from his lips as his vision darkened, and that familiar sense of failure crept back in. He mocked himself. Maybe a weakling like him should have known his place. But in the next instant, despair was replaced by an unbreakable will. He immediately activated his retrieval ability. The target was selected, and it was himself. In the next second, the corpse collector machine appeared and sucked Ye Jing inside, creating a bizarre scene. Even the blood demon froze, while Liu Xingran and the others stared in shock. The system quickly announced that living beings could not be retrieved. Operation failed. Ye Jing had been waiting for that exact message. He poured in the last of his strength. The corpse collector machine switched to forced ejection mode and launched him straight toward the blood demon. The terrifying propulsion created crushing pressure and smashed the monster's body apart. Taking that chance, Ye Jing grabbed the target stone and confirmed he had it. Without the controlling object, the blood demon collapsed instantly. Ye Jing looked at the stone and read the ancient carvings on it. The system immediately announced that the blood trial was complete. Everyone there was still frozen, not understanding what just happened. Even Liu Xingran could not believe it. Had they really won? After a few seconds of silence, the whole group burst into cheers. Their rising power made them so excited they almost jumped. Liu Xingran was shocked to find she had leveled up. Only Ye Jing had no level-up light. The system said he had hit his limit and failed to advance. At that moment, from the remaining blood mass of the blood demon, a dazzling item appeared. Valuable cards floated up into the air one after another. Everyone rushed to grab them, and the card in front of Ye Jing showed Attack 88, with a level 10 requirement. He suddenly remembered that his own limit was still stuck at level 1. Seeing so many rewards he could not use felt like standing before treasure he could never touch. Liu Xingran walked over and sincerely said the biggest credit belonged to him, so he should decide how to distribute the loot. After a few polite refusals, Ye Jing leaned closer and quietly asked her for a favor. Outside the gate, nearly 100 bodyguards were already waiting to launch a rescue. But right then, Liu Xingran's group walked out of the gate safely. Seeing her unharmed, the lead bodyguard teared up and called out to Miss. Cheers erupted, praising her for conquering the abyss once again. Surrounded by her people, Liu Xingran proudly declared there was nothing she could not do, while her teammates waved goodbye and promised to keep the secret. IMS. Thinking back before leaving the gate, Ye Jing had hesitated and asked her, with the size of the Liu Corporation, money should not be a problem, right? He pointed at the loot cards and offered to sell them all at a discount, and though stunned by the number, Liu Xingran agreed immediately. He then seriously told her to act as if he never existed and let everyone believe she cleared the abyss alone. Liu Xingran could only stand there, completely confused. After getting her agreement, Ye Jing casually turned away and told them to go first, saying he would quietly disappear on his own. That indifference moved Liu Xingran deeply, as if he had willingly given her all the credit. At the same time, in a pitch-black space without light, Ye Jing sat alone at the center. In front of him was the stone he had taken, and on it crawled a tiny blood demon that looked oddly cute. He slowly reached his hand toward the small creature. Ye Jing thought that even something imprisoned like this did not want to be trampled forever, so it should become his power. The tiny blood demon was instantly absorbed into the system. A notification appeared confirming Blood Dream Nightmare had been successfully retrieved. A new skill unlocked, Nightmare Body, which consumes life force to summon a nightmare clone that can copy one attack of the host or block one attack for the host, then vanish immediately, with growth potential and a 30-second cooldown. After hearing the description, Ye Jing simply nodded. He now had a new partner for future battles. Back in the city, his life returned to normal. Ye Jing stopped by a small drink shop to rest. While sitting there, he opened the system panel to review his gains. The high-level gear had all been sold to Liu Xingran, since a nameless scavenger carrying rare items would only attract trouble. So instead of regret, he felt relieved. The dull gray items in his hands would not catch anyone's eye. In his view, this pile of scrap probably could not even be sold. Absent-mindedly, his finger brushed the retrieve function. The system instantly said, equipment retrieved and 1 BP gained, and Ye Jing jolted in shock. His calm face twisted when he realized he had just destroyed the item. A stream of info explained that retrieving equipment meant dismantling and refining it into BP, a universal resource for upgrading, repairing, or crafting, and the system immediately assigned him a quest to fix his basic dagger. Yi Jing took out the familiar dagger, and after non-stop battles, its durability had dropped to 0. He quickly operated the system, and with the extra 4 BP he had, he dismantled a few more useless weapons. The result stunned him. The dagger was fully repaired, and even gained higher durability and attack. A familiar smile appeared on his face. Even trash gear could become valuable if polished long enough. After finishing the quest, the system offered 2 rewards, a beginner mana potion blueprint or 2 random stat points, and he chose the potion recipe. Thinking about real adventurers, Ye Jing knew stats were not urgent, because in the abyss, the real danger was running out of mana before even meeting the boss. The system congratulated him on learning item reconstruction, and to craft a light mana potion he needed 6 BP and any container, which made him glance at the cup on the table. Leaning back, he frowned. BP was expected, but the random container requirement gave him a headache. With no better idea, he awkwardly called the waiter and asked for a few empty containers. Soon 3 empty cups were placed in front of him. Watching the interface run, Ye Jing saw dismantling complete and reconstruction begin, and surprisingly it came with a mini-game. So he sat there with the system panel and cups, mumbling to himself while the staff kept sneaking curious looks. After some trial and error, he finally crafted 5 finished products. Holding the first cup, he chuckled. It looked weird, but usable was all that mattered. After 1 sip, the system confirmed he had obtained a light mana potion. The effect was solid, though the taste was like a strange mixed fruit drink. His mana quickly refilled and the fatigue faded, leaving Ye Jing deeply satisfied. After cleaning up, he left the shop, thinking he still had energy for another abyss run today. But the moment he stepped outside, a group blocked his path, and the leader loudly asked if he was Ye Jing. Yi Jing glanced at them without replying. The man sneered, saying that in just a few days his aura had completely changed. He mocked that maybe scavenging corpses had brought him some lucky treasure, since they had been searching for him non-stop. Yi Jing finally spoke, saying he had repaid both debt and interest and wanted no more trouble. The man refused to let it go, reminding him that while the debt was cleared, the labor contract still stood, and a corpse scavenger should know his place. He kept taunting, claiming Ye Jing was putting on airs after a slight change. Then he deliberately knocked Yi Jing's cup to the ground. Acting like the victim, he accused Ye Jing of spilling his drink and emphasized the gap between ordinary people and a high-rank class holder. The lackeys behind him cracked their knuckles, clearly waiting for this chance. Yi Jing stayed silent, calculating fast, knowing class holders were forbidden to use abilities outside the abyss, unless officially authorized. The leader kept humiliating him, ordering him to pick up every pearl on the ground and lick the spilled milk tea clean. He even pretended to be generous, saying this kind of job suited a corpse scavenger like Yi Jing, and Yi Jing's eyes instantly turned cold as he refused. The man flew into a rage and rushed forward to attack. But before he could move, a voice cut in and told him to step aside. The one who appeared was Rodrigo Seiza, a member of the Shrank Guild Blood Oath. He grabbed the troublemaker by the collar and asked if he had gathered enough people, and the man immediately stammered that they were short one. Seiza asked where the last person was. After scanning the area, his gaze landed on Yi Jing, and he said he had been chosen. Someone nearby quickly reminded him that Yi Jing was just an ordinary corpse scavenger. Yi Jing calmly looked at Seiza without saying a word. While the others tried to flatter him, Seiza bluntly stated the purpose. He needed a human shield for a Blood Moon Abyss expedition, and strength did not matter. The moment Yi Jing heard Blood Moon, his attention sharpened. This was a special period when abyss beasts went berserk, and dangerous mutations appeared. But the rewards also skyrocketed, from drop quantity to the quality of magic crystals. To Ye Jing, this was a goldmine, and he agreed immediately. Seiza nodded in satisfaction and praised him for making a wise choice. Then he called his subordinates over. At that moment, Ye Jing suddenly heard a disgustingly familiar voice behind him. The man stared at him like he had seen a ghost. He stammered, still too shocked to finish a sentence. Before he could speak, Yi Jing's fist smashed into his face and cut him off. The sudden clash left everyone around confused, and someone impatiently demanded an explanation. Yi Jing and Lao Chen moved to a quiet corner with no one around. Lao Chen excitedly confirmed he was not mistaken, and Ye Jing calmly reminded him that without the team's combined effort, they would have died, and their survival also owed something to him. Right then, Seiza appeared out of nowhere and asked if they knew each other, and though startled, Yi Jing instantly denied it. Seiza nodded to himself and said that made sense, since someone doing dirty work rarely had real friends. After Seiza left, Ye Jing asked Lao Chen why he was here. Lao Chen admitted the guild had almost jailed him for 15 years, and only after selling everything to pay a massive fine did he regain freedom, now stripped of levels and forced to start over as cannon fodder, and he even threatened to report Yi Jing to the World Guild if his levels were not returned. Yi Jing simply looked at him coldly, warning that he was no longer easy to bully and could turn him into scrap and retrieve him if necessary. Soon everyone gathered at City C's subway station. Their destination was the open Scarlet Moon Gate. A level 3 poet named Zhu Tong greeted the newcomers and suggested everyone share their class and level. Yi Jing briefly said he was a level 1 corpse scavenger, and Lao Chen introduced himself as level 1 curse master Chen Xingdian. Zhu Tong patted Yi Jing's shoulder and laughed, saying they were all bottom tier anyway, and here to trade their lives for money, which made Yi Jing certain this was a true suicide squad. Zhu Tong then introduced the others, and proposed choosing a captain, believing himself suitable as the highest level present. Lao Ju, a level 2 healer, agreed first, and Lao Jiang, a level 3 warrior, also had no objections. Just then, Seiza arrived and outlined the plan. Besides 6 core Blood Oath teams, there would be 5 temporary members. And despite the mockery, he bluntly said their role was to lower casualties for the main force. Ignoring the laughter, he explained that Scarlet Moon was a labyrinth-type abyss full of traps and mechanisms, and their job was to scout, locate the boss room, and relay all information back. He had 0 expectations for their combat power. If they saw monsters, just run. But before entering, he warned them that to get paid at least 1 person had to return alive, and if only 1 survived, that person would take all the reward. Hearing that, Lao Zhu suddenly coughed hard. When asked, he looked at the gate and said he had no choice. 4 daughters were waiting at home for him to bring money back. Lao Jiang sighed as well, saying his wife was seriously ill and needed expensive treatment. After a few short exchanges, Seiza ordered the team to move out. On the way, Lao Ju noticed Ye Jing and asked if he was completely new, and Lao Jiang replied that cannon fodder were mostly rookies anyway. But Lao Zhu shook his head, saying it was rare for a newcomer to stay as calm as Ye Jing. After walking deep inside, the group realized the surroundings were strangely silent. Zhu Tong, leading the way, felt uneasy about not seeing a single monster. Lao Chen told him not to jinx it, while Lao Ju sensed the temperature dropping fast and Lao Jiang confirmed it. Zhu Tong started shivering and complained he should have worn more clothes. Then he took another step forward. Instantly, Ye Jing noticed something wrong, and his expression changed. Without explaining, he threw a stone to knock Zhu Tong off position, and a giant blade slammed down exactly where he had stood. Zhu Tong held his head in confusion. Lao Chen cursed that he had triggered a trap, and Ye Jing was speechless at how this guy survived this long. Zhu Tong only sighed in relief after realizing he had almost died. But not long after, he triggered another trap the moment he finished speaking. From above, countless large cocoons dropped like rain. Lao Zhu stared at them and wondered if they were alive. The moment he said it, the cocoons began to mutate. One by one, level 5 elite demonic spiders crawled out, each carrying deadly poison. The most dramatic reaction came from Zhu Tong, who screamed that he hated insects. Lao Chen immediately cast a fire spell to burn them, but it barely scratched them. Realizing they were elite monsters, Lao Jiang gripped his sword and charged forward. He unleashed several consecutive slashes, yet the damage was almost 0. One spider lunged and bit straight at Yi Jing's leg. The moment it touched him, it was crushed into minced flesh. Yi Jing muttered that it looked disgusting, and Lao Chen snapped that he was showing off his special ability. Right then, the system notified that demonic spiders were eligible for retrieval. Yi Jing confirmed instantly and gained 1 skill point. A skill card appeared, allowing weapons to inflict a poison effect, lasting 65 seconds after dealing damage. Seeing this, Ye Jing understood that retrieval could grant not only classes or skills, but also enhancement techniques. Meanwhile, Lao Jiang was struggling, shouting for Yi Jing to fall back, but Yi Jing calmly drew his dagger, activated the poison effect, and stepped forward. On the other side, Zhu Tong was being chased desperately by a spider. As he ran, he thought that although he was the highest level, he had a secret he never told anyone. Another spider suddenly pounced and forced him to dodge. In truth, his class was not combat-oriented but focused on support. Zhu Tong raised his microphone and decided he had to buff himself first. He began reciting loudly like on stage, declaring himself an elegant poet and commanding all demons in his domain to kneel. Yi Jing nearby was stunned, having no idea what he was doing, but the system suddenly displayed buff success. To everyone's shock, the monsters became even more ferocious. Zhu Tong's face went pale, realizing he had buffed the spiders instead, and he ran while crying. Just as the spider's fangs were about to pierce him, it lunged in for the kill. Ye Jing suddenly appeared like a savior and drove a blade straight through the monster. The remaining spiders instantly went berserk and charged together. Lao Zhou's eyes widened, while Lao Jiang shouted for a full retreat. Lao Chen, the weakest right now, could barely hold on and kept cursing. When a spider prepared a fatal strike on him, Ye Jing showed up again at the perfect moment. The monster dropped on the spot, and one after another fell under his blade. In the chaotic battlefield, only Yi Jing stayed completely calm. Lao Zhou and Lao Jiang glanced at Zhu Tong and exchanged looks, thinking their captain was the one secretly saving everyone. Yi Jing had no idea he was misunderstood, as he analyzed that the demonized spiders had natural poison resistance, weakening his toxin skill, but his physical damage was still overwhelming, while praise for Zhu Tong echoed behind him. Zhu Tong forced a smile, knowing he did nothing since he was just about to buff himself to run. In truth, the monsters in the abyss were not mindless, and could assess the battle. After observing carefully, Ye Jing realized they had switched to survival mode. The spiders began emitting strange vibrating sounds. Then they slowly retreated step by step. Lao Chen finally sighed in relief, confirming the monsters had withdrawn, yet the thought that this was only the first room still sent chills down his spine. Seeing the card marked with number 27, Ye Jing muttered that he had gathered enough poison secret manuals, so he would keep one for safety and exchange the rest for points. He stored one card and converted the remaining 27 into BP, and the system notified him of a total of 54 BP gained. Zhu Tong relit the torch and said since the monsters had retreated, the team should move forward. Walking at the front, he reminded everyone to check carefully and never trigger another trap. Ye Jing was speechless, since that warning clearly applied to Zhu Tong himself. At that moment, something unusual appeared ahead. The system displayed that a secret area named Madness had been discovered. Yi Jing observed closely and guessed the blood manner influence had created this hidden branch, and he wondered if he should explore it. After thinking it through, he raised his hand and summoned Meng Mo. From the blood aura, a blood demon emerged with the exact same appearance as Ye Jing. With no emotion, he ordered it to walk with the group while he followed, in secret. Zhu Tong turned around and only saw a fake Yi Jing standing there, looking slightly dull, and wondered where the real one had gone. He continued reminding everyone to maintain formation, since splitting up could mean sudden death. A response echoed back from another direction. Meanwhile, Ye Jing stepped into the mirror-like light. On the other side was a massive empty cavern. Before he could observe further, a suspicious creature appeared behind him. Sensing danger, Ye Jing instantly turned on guard. The sneak attack barely missed him by an inch. He immediately leapt into the air. The two faced each other, neither making the first move. After a brief pause, the spider suddenly lunged with its massive foreleg. Yi Jing drew his weapon and unleashed a series of counter-slashes. But the impact felt like hitting soft cotton. He was shocked, as its physical defense was nearly immune. The spider kept closing in with relentless attacks. After several exchanges, Ye Jing finally cut off one of its legs. In return, a counterattack sent him flying over 10 meters and pinned him to the rock wall. Taking the chance, he opened the target interface. The information showed a level 20 queen spider, a rare elite. Instead of fear, Ye Jing felt excited because defeating a rare elite would bring valuable recycling rewards. The queen spider immediately spat out silk to strike back, but most of the web only swept across the ground below. Yi Jing quickly dashed upward to avoid it. Without hesitation, he unleashed Great Explosive Flame. A violent blast echoed through the cavern. Unfortunately, the spider took almost no damage and charged again. Every strike came with thick webs spreading everywhere. Yi Jing realized it had extreme fire resistance, completely nullifying his elemental advantage. If that was the case, then close combat was the only option. He accelerated and shot straight toward the target. His attack landed perfectly on a vital weak point. The spider shrieked and was blasted backward in pain. During the fight, Ye Jing noticed something interesting. The low-level demonized spiders had deadly poison, but the level 20 queen spider had lost poison resistance and venom abilities, exposing a poison weakness. Its evolution focused entirely on defense, while the offspring handled hunting, so the very toxin from its brood became the most effective weapon against it. Suddenly, the spider changed its attack pattern. Countless threads shot out, and one long strand wrapped around Yi Jing before he could react. His limbs were instantly restrained. His body hung suspended in mid-air. With no choice left, he activated Berserk State. A surge of power exploded from him and tore the webs apart. He then rushed forward at extreme speed. One punch slammed straight into the queen spider's face. The destructive force crushed it beyond recognition. The system announced that the Berserk card could evolve into two paths: Flesh Sovereign Form that boosts all stats and lets physical attacks pierce immunity at the cost of constant HP drain, or Endless Fury that doubles rage effect and halves cooldown. Leaning against the wall, Ye Jing carefully weighed his options. For most players, the second choice was clearly safer and more stable. But against monsters that nullify physical damage like the queen spider, that path solved nothing. After comparing the pros and cons, Yi Jing chose Flesh Sovereign Form, since he still had a super regeneration card to offset the HP drain, and immunity piercing would be crucial against special monsters later. Among the queen spider's remains, several new cards appeared. He collected every single drop without hesitation. Holding one equipment card, Ye Jing calculated whether to distribute it to guild members or sell it in the abyss, estimating it was worth at least over 10,000 yuan. He then summoned the scavenger machine and activated its recycling ability. The system reported 20 attribute points gained, making Ye Jing eager to see what skill would unlock. But what appeared was a strange-looking card, confirmed as the Mother of Brood card. Yi Jing widened his eyes, wondering if this summon could choose its own evolution path. Meanwhile, Zhu Tong's group reached an area covered in mineral crystals. Staring at the scene, Zhu Tong was shocked to discover an S-rank magic crystal mine formed under the red moon, each crystal incredibly valuable. Overwhelmed with excitement, he immediately took out his treasure. It was the RGOSI, an item that could mark terrain within 60 meters for other explorers to see on the map. But just as he placed it down, Lao Chen grabbed his collar and cursed, saying if they could carry these crystals out, they would never worry about money again, and exposing the location would cost them not just fortune, but possibly their lives. Seeing the tension rise, Lao Zhang stepped in to mediate, saying they were only pathfinders, and if they died in the abyss, no one would care. Hearing that, Lao Chen's face grew darker. The word sacrifice reminded him of the past, when he once pushed a teammate into demon trees with the same excuse, and now he growled that even if he died, he would not accept being bait again. At that moment, only one extreme thought filled his mind, and then, the image of being swallowed by Yi Jing's corpse collector flashed in his memory. He gritted his teeth and glared at the blood demon, shaped like Ye Jing, standing blankly in the distance, hatred boiling inside. His greed never changed, and staring at the valuable crystals around him, he felt that with enough money, level and strength no longer mattered. With that thought, he began breaking off crystal chunks, planning to enhance his gear and later join a stronger team. Holding the crystals, he smirked, convinced no one would notice if he hit a few. Suddenly, a bright red warning popped up, trap activated. A laser beam from above swept across where two of them stood. The final ray locked onto Zhu Tong and pierced straight through his head, killing him instantly. The group fell into chaos, screams echoing as no one understood what just happened. Meanwhile, beyond the spatial mirror, Ye Jing had not returned. In front of him stood a level 1 demonized spiderling. Seeing the tiny creature, Ye Jing laughed. It was so weak it barely had any combat ability. He picked it up as it rubbed against him with a silly smile, and the system offered to upgrade it to level 5 for 5 BB points. Thinking it needed at least level 5 to protect itself, he agreed. Energy surged into it. Evolution completed, and it gained a new skill called Web Nest. Outside, Lao Chen turned pale and claimed it was just an accident. But Lao Jiang exploded in anger, grabbing his collar and demanding why greed had cost Zhu Tong his life. He shouted that Zhu Tong supported his entire family, risking his life daily in the abyss just to earn money, only to die because of a teammate. Under the accusations, Lao Chen argued back, saying there was nothing wrong with trying to earn more, and if Zhu Tong's strength had not declined, he would not still be risking himself here. The tension peaked as they nearly fought, and Lao Chen yelled that in this world, only money and power mattered, just as things spiraled out of control. From deep in the cave, Seza appeared, clapping and enjoying the drama, openly agreeing with Lao Chen. Smiling, he asked if Lao Chen wanted to join the Blood Alliance, since there was one open spot. Lao Jiang and Lao Chen both turned toward the newcomer. A subordinate beside Seza reminded him that someone had just died, and the corpse was still fresh. Seza calmly replied that death in the abyss was normal, and the weak only traded their lives for money. Whether they earned it or died made little difference. As he spoke, he dragged Lao Chen forward and explained that magic crystals only formed under the red moon, each worth as much as a city, enough for half a lifetime of luxury. But he had not mentioned one thing. To take these crystals out, a matching price must be paid. After a pause, he smiled wickedly and corrected himself. The price was not items, but lives. At that moment, a level 17 warrior from Caesar's side stepped forward. Everyone tensed, not daring to move. The red-haired man beside Caesar ordered them to mine the magic crystals and fill the basket ahead. Anyone who tried to run would die. Lao Zhang could not hold back, pointing out that every crystal risked triggering a deadly trap, which was no different from suicide. Caesar sneered and brought up his situation, asking if his wife did not urgently need money for treatment. He reminded Lao Zhang of his past vow to earn enough even at the cost of his life, and asked if those words were empty. Then he mocked them, saying trading life for money was what they always did anyway. Cornered with no escape, Lao Zhang had no choice left. He silently walked toward the crystal field. His trembling hand slowly reached for a magic crystal. Even though he had prepared himself, when he finally touched it, he broke down in tears, admitting he came here because of gambling debts, and that he had always been afraid of death. Seiza watched with pure contempt, seeing Lao Zhang as nothing but trash. Meanwhile, Lao Chen observed quietly, realizing Seiza was far stronger than anyone here, even stronger than his own peak. So he quickly switched sides and asked again about joining the Blood Alliance, introducing himself as a fire mage. Seiza looked surprised and asked his subordinate if he had really said that. After getting confirmation, he gestured for Lao Chen to come closer. Thinking his chance had come, Lao Chen immediately showed loyalty. Before he could finish, Seza kicked him away, blood bursting from his mouth, mocking that a traitor who sold out teammates dared dream of joining them. Someone like him was only valuable as a corpse. Lao Chen lay on the ground, in too much pain to stand. Seza declared that no one here would leave alive. He would kill them all, and hand their bodies to a necromancer to keep mining magic crystals. In his eyes, they were already dead, and just as Zhu Tong silently cursed them, Ye Jing finally returned, dismissing the blood demon and stepping forward. When Zhu Tong tried to yell, Ye Jing signaled him to calm down. He walked ahead and told Zhu Tong to leave it to him, and just watch. Then Ye Jing looked at Seza and said casually, "It is just picking up a few stones. What is there to fear?" The man in the hat on the enemy side immediately got angry, shocked that a scavenger dared interfere. But Ye Jing was not bluffing. He bent down and picked up a magic crystal. Everyone nearby rushed to hide, thinking he would trigger the deadly trap and drag them all down. Yet nothing happened. The trap did not react, or maybe it only worked once. Ye Jing quickly analyzed that the trap was meant for instant death, but with high enough luck, the effect could drop to severe injury, light injury, or even nullified, and his luck had likely reached that final threshold. Thinking that, he casually picked up more crystals. The system kept showing trap not activated, and even Seza was stunned, saying if the trap was still active, then Ye Jing's luck had to be above 60. For a level 1 scavenger, having over 60 luck was almost impossible, since most classes could not naturally boost that stat. The red-haired man tried picking one up himself and reported back, and after 2 safe attempts, he declared the trap was completely gone. He even shouted for everyone to see that nothing was wrong. But the moment he finished speaking, a laser shot from behind and pierced his head instantly. The death was so sudden he could not even react. Seza flinched but stayed calm, ruling out other possibilities and concluding that Ye Jing had extraordinarily high luck, likely a rare trait of his class, since most people in the Abyss focused on combat power. Hearing them assume he built everything into luck, Ye Jing almost laughed, since his stats were actually balanced. Seza regained interest and changed plans. Instead of killing everyone, he decided keeping one high-luck corpse like Ye Jing was enough. The others were worthless. As soon as he spoke, all his subordinates drew their weapons, ready to wipe out the rest. Lao Zhang trembled, face pale, knowing official Blood Oath members were far beyond what they could handle, and Zhu Tong urged everyone to run. Lao Zhang grimaced in panic. He grabbed a crystal and bolted at full speed. Watching this, Ye Jing cursed under his breath, since they clearly had the advantage, yet they were still running, leaving Lao Zhang even more confused, because they only had a few people left. The advantage did not have to mean numbers. At that moment, a mage on the opposite side suddenly changed expression and asked if anyone heard something strange. They looked up. A tidal wave of demonized spiders was rushing in from all directions, a chilling sight. Seza's group immediately sounded the alarm as the beasts closed in. Zhu Tong looked at the spiders, then at Ye Jing, and while things were already bad, Ye Jing casually said they were just small spiders he picked up along the way, leaving Zhu Tong stunned that he could control them. Ye Jing gave no further explanation and kept observing the battlefield. In his sight was a level 20 necromancer. Beside him stood a level 17 berserker. There was also a level 18 hunter, and a level 19 paladin. Ye Jing quickly calculated both sides, unsure how humans compared to monsters, but his instinct told him they still had a chance, except the system could not fully evaluate players with complete classes. And just then Seza spoke with interest, impressed by Ye Jing's control over abyss creatures. Ignoring him, Ye Jing continued thinking, and in raw stats alone, Seza was likely equal or even stronger than him. Meanwhile, Seza remained confident, saying level 10 spiders were nothing, ordering his men to clear the beasts first, then eliminate all witnesses, and not damage the magic crystals. Ye Jing knew he could still handle this, but the plan had changed, so he told everyone if they wanted to live, run toward the Chenjing Hall for shelter. Lao Zhang cursed Ye Jing countless times in his heart, thinking if he wanted to fight alone, then do it himself, since he did not want to die here. Terrified, he obeyed and ran toward Lao Chen. Zhu Tong stayed still, and Ye Jing reminded him that if he had his own goal in entering the abyss, then dying here made no sense. For once, Zhu Tong looked serious, gratitude and complex emotions in his eyes, promising he would not forget this. Then he turned and ran. But he had not gone far before another accident struck. Large rocks suddenly collapsed from above, sealing the escape route. Lao Zhang exploded in anger, while Zhu Tong awkwardly apologized, admitting he was always unlucky in the abyss and did not know why. On the other side, Seza's team had begun fighting the spiders. Caught off guard, the beasts fell into brief chaos. The enemy paladin charged to the front line. He loudly declared such weak monsters were nothing, but a web-spitting spider instantly shot Silk and blasted him backward. As he struggled to remove the sticky web, his pupils suddenly shrank. Ye Jing had appeared before him at ghost-like speed. The paladin raised his shield and mocked the gap between a level 1 and a level 19 like him. His eyes were full of confidence. He activated his strongest defensive skill. Yi Jing knew the level 10 spiders could only distract, and facing a professional team like Blood Oath required much more. A radiant aura spun around the paladin's body at blinding speed. Then a scream rang out as the paladin clutched his leg and collapsed. Yi Jing instantly closed in to press the attack. Just as he prepared the finishing blow, 2 arrows tore through the air from afar. Fortunately, he had sensed them and swiftly tilted aside. The 2 archers were stunned, one even questioning if Yi Jing truly dodged, or if he had misfired and ordered another shot. They drew their bows again. Another volley flew out. Yi Jing calmly swung his weapon and shattered both arrows mid-air. This shocked them even more, since they were sure the shots were accurate. But Yi Jing gave them no time to think and activated Fire Burst. A violent explosion streaked toward the 2 archers. Both barely leapt aside in time to avoid it. They all had the same thought. This guy was way stronger than they imagined. In another area, an enemy berserker swung his great blade straight into the demon spiders, roaring with killing intent. With one slash, the spider in front of Chutong and Lao Zhang was split in half. Then his icy gaze shifted to the 2 of them. Chutong panicked and quickly explained he hadn't joined the fight, begging the man not to attack. But Lao Zhang charged forward instead. Ignoring the danger, he raised his sword to block for Chutong and shouted for him to get back. Even so, he still turned around and cursed Chutong, saying this mess was all his fault. He roared that if they wanted to live, they had to stand up and fight. Even exhausted, Lao Zhang forced himself to lift his shield and block the next strike. But the enemy's power was beyond anything he expected, and he was sent flying instantly. Blood sprayed the moment he hit the ground. His sword stabbed into the dirt right in front of Chutong. The berserker slowly walked closer, face filled with killing intent. Lao Zhang struggled to his feet and suddenly burst out laughing. He felt he never should have stepped into the abyss in the first place. He shouted that trading one life for another was fine. Death would clear all debts, so if they wanted to kill him, just do it. But the enemy didn't hesitate at all. The great blade was raised high. Just as it was about to fall, he suddenly froze. With difficulty, he turned to look at Chutong behind him, his body completely unable to move. Chutong was holding a microphone, activating a skill, secretly relieved that he finally hit the right target. He urged Lao Zhang to counterattack, since his immobilization spell had worked. But the joy didn't last long. Lao Zhang nearly exploded in anger, because he was frozen by the same skill. Even Yi Jing, who was fighting multiple enemies alone, couldn't help glancing over. Meanwhile, the necromancer finally made his move. He rose into the air, dark energy swirling around him, saying that no matter how special Yi Jing's power was, his mana had limits. Hearing that, Yi Jing quickly checked himself. Maintaining the summons and controlling the spider swarm was constantly draining his mana, so he took out an item he had prepared in advance. Seeing Yi Jing casually pull out a cup of water and drink in the middle of battle, the mage was stunned. He sneered, thinking no recovery item could restore that much mana in time. Then he continued casting, proudly declaring that, as an Shrank Necromancer, the corpses he controlled would fight until they completely crumbled. The moment he mentioned corpse control, Yi Jing's eyes lit up. At the same time, his mana was fully restored. He directly summoned the garbage collector machine and said the dead deserved rest, not exploitation. The machine activated instantly and began collecting every corpse on the battlefield. The necromancer turned pale as all the bodies under his control vanished in an instant. In the blink of an eye, Yi Jing appeared right in front of him. He threw a punch. The necromancer was smashed to the ground, completely unable to stand again. Only then did Seiza finally speak. He admitted Yi Jing's tricks were interesting and recalled noticing him at the drink shop. Yi Jing looked straight at him and said if everyone had just taken their own gains and left, it wouldn't have come to this. What he couldn't accept was Seiza treating human lives as tools for resources, especially the fact that Seiza once used him as a scapegoat. But Seiza still had no idea who he was facing. He mocked that having some strength didn't change the fate of being cannon fodder. In his eyes, even his weakest subordinates ranked above someone like Yi Jing. In this world, only the ruthless stood at the top. Right then, a subordinate's desperate plea for mercy rang in Seiza's ear. He turned and saw the man being restrained by Chutong. Seiza simply sneered and said only one side would leave the abyss alive. Chutong nodded in agreement. Even while still affected by the immobilization spell, Lao Zhang shouted for everyone not to believe him. Once they resisted, there was no turning back. The only way was to fight to the end. Chutong's hands trembled. He admitted he was just a normal support, not even used to killing monsters, let alone killing people. Seiza looked at Yi Jing and coldly declared this clash would end only when one side was completely wiped out. Yi Jing smiled faintly. He didn't care about those arguments. What he believed was simple. Everyone had the right to choose their own path, whether that meant stepping into the abyss or walking out alive. Seiza finally made his move. He spat out a line of contempt and attacked. A devastating punch shot toward Yi Jing, and he barely managed to block it. but blocking didn't mean enduring. He was blasted away and slammed into the rock wall. Pain surged through his body. From that single clash, Ye Jing knew this was the strongest opponent he had ever faced. His pupils shrank sharply. Seiza pressed in like a raging torrent, clearly aiming to kill on the spot. Luckily, Ye Jing stayed calm enough to dodge the fatal blow. In front of absolute power, tricks meant nothing. In the distance, Chutong froze as he watched. Right then, the warrior he restrained spoke up. The man coldly reminded him that he was too weak. His magic had already been broken. The next second, Chutong was sent flying. Blood streamed non-stop from his eyes. He thought his life was about to end. But Lao Zheng, the hot-tempered old man who always complained, rushed out again and rammed the enemy away. He roared at Chutong to act now. Before he could finish, he was countered and smashed down even harder than before. Even on the verge of collapse, he still shouted for Chutong to move. Both hands injured, Lao Zheng's eyes were still full of trust. His hoarse voice asked if Chutong wasn't supposed to be strong, wasn't he the captain? Only then did Chutong realize he had been wrong from the start. He was just a naive burden. He became captain of the cannon fodder squad only to avoid direct combat. He muttered in self-mockery. Facing danger and still not daring to fight made him utterly useless. He was never as strong as people thought. When the enemy approached, he once cowardly knelt and begged for mercy. Memories of being looked down on flooded back. Back then, he was the only one who could barely deal any damage. They mocked him for relying on a tiny bit of talent while still wanting to fight. In the end, they kicked him out of the team. Rejected everywhere, he had nowhere left to go. Until the day he met Seiza, who asked what class he had. Chutong stuttered that he was just a level 3 bard, yet Seiza still told him to follow. Meanwhile, Ye Jing was beaten until his vision blurred, but Seiza still didn't stop. If anything, he seemed more excited the longer he fought. This was the Dragon Surge martial art of a fighter, a skill that dealt continuous true damage to internal organs. The more mana you used, the worse the injuries became, even leading to sudden death. In other words, it was a technique designed to cripple mana-based powerhouses. Enduring the pain, Ye Jing forced himself up and realized Seiza's speed was terrifying. Even if he ran, Seiza would chase him down. As he calculated every option, he thought about the bleeding effect from that skill, something he actually needed right now. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. He immediately called out to Chutong. Dodging Seiza, Ye Jing rushed toward Chutong and collapsed in front of him, as if completely drained. After a brief silence, he said, "If you only wait for others' mercy, you will never escape weakness." Absolute power was what he desired more than anyone. His face showed almost no emotion, but every word was firm. He too once hated his own helplessness. Painful memories resurfaced, reminding him how weak he used to be. But he never thought of running. Being weak wasn't the scariest thing. The scariest thing was letting your heart surrender. Hearing that, something clicked inside Chutong. Notifications flooded in. 0 damage. Unwilling. Still 0. Yet among countless failures, one critical hit finally dealt a single point of damage. And in that very instant, everything seemed to freeze. Ye Jing knew he had succeeded. All it took was the courage to take the first step. He pushed himself up, wiped the blood from his lips, and continued. He believed his entire life had been preparing him to become a king one day, even if he started as trash in others' eyes. Chutong was completely drawn in. The word king echoed non-stop in his mind. Chutong tightened his grip on his weapon. He knew if he didn't change, death was the only ending. Living in ridicule and running from every fight was no longer an option. The fear in his eyes faded. His inferiority vanished, replaced by pure determination. He told himself he had to grow stronger, had to reach the level of a king. The nearby enemy burst out laughing. A level 3 support like Chutong breaking a level 17 main fighter's armor. Impossible. He even stood still and dared him to attack. But Chutong suddenly threw his sword away. The enemy froze, completely confused. The familiar microphone appeared in Chutong's hand. He instantly activated Grand Poetry Dispersion. The enemy's face changed the moment he saw it. Even Seiza couldn't hide his shock. Ye Jing smiled with confidence. His plan had worked. He had found the strongest support possible. The system notification appeared. A buff was activated. Damage, defense, speed, and resistance, all increased by 15%. At the same time, Ye Jing summoned his final trump card, Blood Dream Demon. The Blood Demon appeared with a bored expression. It clearly didn't expect to be summoned again. In an instant, it transformed into a copy of Ye Jing and appeared behind the enemy. Then it lunged forward, restraining him like it wanted to devour him whole. The warrior screamed in pain and panic. Chutong only glanced at him briefly. Then he focused back on the main battle. Seiza sneered, saying they were courting death, and threw out a heavy punch. The strike was fast and brutal, but with his enhanced body, Ye Jing dodged far more easily. He could feel his abundant mana accelerating his recovery. Seizing the chance, Ye Jing countered with his sharp dagger. Even so, Seiza barely avoided the fatal hit. The fight grew balanced. Each clash sent dust exploding across the battlefield. Seiza started noticing something wrong. His armor no longer worked like before. Even Ye Jing's old dagger could pierce it. Yi Jing understood at once. The defense-signaling effect from flesh explosion was still active, but the bleeding status on him hadn't disappeared either. He knew time was limited, so he accelerated and closed in directly. Seeing that determined gaze, Seiza became even more excited. He twisted his body and narrowly dodged the fierce attack. Seiza proudly declared that 20 years of combat training would never lose to a brat like Yi Jing, and blocked the next strike with his hand. Laughing loudly, he slammed a heavy punch straight into Yi Jing's face and asked if he finally felt the gap between them. According to him, fighters could develop in many ways, and he chose pure destructive power. Hit head-on, Yi Jing was sent sliding across the ground, blood spilling from his lips. But he immediately stood up, preparing for the next decisive clash. Even mid-fight, Seiza kept boasting that he despised weak techniques and converted all his potential into raw power. He roared and unleashed his ultimate move, Heaven-Shattering Fist. The terrifying force completely overwhelmed Yi Jing and blasted him off the battlefield. His body smashed into massive rocks, shattering them into countless fragments. Seiza laughed arrogantly, saying Yi Jing was a fool to face his ultimate head-on. In his eyes, the kid had no chance of winning. Even with his body in extreme pain, Yi Jing spoke. He decided to pour all his remaining stat points into strength. The system confirmed the use of all 176 free points. Tearing off his ruined shirt, Yi Jing stepped forward with an aura never seen before. Seiza had no idea what was happening. He could only stare in confusion. In an instant, Yi Jing's strength stat skyrocketed. His muscles visibly transformed, and a new surge of power flooded his body. Even so, Seiza remained confident. He laughed and prepared to throw his strongest punch again. Yi Jing calculated silently. He didn't know how much a fighter's combat skill could amplify strength, but he chose to face it head-on. With every point invested into strength, he believed this punch would be enough to counter Seiza. The two of them charged at each other at the same time. It was another fist clash, just like before, but this time, the outcome was different. One figure was blasted into the air, and this time, it was Seiza. His hand was nearly shattered. Blood poured from his eyes, nose, and mouth. Only now did he feel the true pain. One question echoed in his mind. How could that punch be so powerful? His body slammed into the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Watching everything unfold, Chu Tong stood there in total shock at Yi Jing's strength. Seiza was still dazed on the ground, but Yi Jing had already closed the distance. He gave no chance to recover. This fight had to end now. One hand grabbed Seiza's head. The other prepared the final blow. Under Seiza's horrified gaze, Yi Jing coldly declared that from today on, he was nothing but cannon fodder. Those words dragged Seiza back to his past 8 years ago. Back then, he was just a strong young man with tied-back hair, ordered every day to clean equipment for stronger members preparing for deep dungeon runs. The leader always said the weak only existed to serve the strong. If he wanted to become an official member, he had to prove his value. He endured every insult in silence. Some even said he was destined to be a sacrifice his whole life. Still, Seiza believed that if he proved himself, he would rise step by step, so he dared to face a monster far beyond his level. He kept telling himself this was his chance. Looking at his empty hands, he once thought the fight wouldn't be that hard. For a rookie, that was pure naivety. The monster rushed in, with just one arm. It crushed him without hesitation. His jaw shattered, 8 ribs broke, his heart was pierced, his liver, spleen, and kidneys were heavily damaged. A doctor's calm voice listed the results, saying saving him had cost a huge amount of crystal stones. Seiza lay inside a special treatment device. The doctor explained that Abyss research could now extract special cells from Abyss creatures and implant them into humans. Luckily, Seiza had high compatibility. The good news was he would live, but, with a twisted smile, the doctor said he was now a hybrid creature. After waking up, Seiza was finally acknowledged as an official member. Sitting high above, the leader tossed down the guild badge and told him to wear it to become his useful right hand and loyal dog. Seiza excitedly picked it up, but still asked about the teammates who fought beside him. The leader calmly said they were all dead. That sentence made Seiza understand the true face of this world. Without value, you were nothing but trash. Back in reality, Seiza roared and grabbed the arm restraining him. A new surge of power exploded. His defense increased. His speed rose. He sprang up and seized control of the fight. It all happened too suddenly. Even Yi Jing was stunned. Did he just recover? Seiza's eyes turned crimson, his face twisted with madness. Without giving Yi Jing time to react, he launched a brutal strike. Though forced back, Yi Jing managed to stay on his feet. Seiza slowly explained that crystal stones were condensed energy in solid form. His body began to transform. Nails sharpened. Pupils turned red. Horns grew from his forehead. His shoulders and body showed signs of mutation. Thanks to the implanted monster organs, he could directly absorb magic crystal energy. In a short time, that power pushed him beyond Abyss boss level. Seiza's arrogant confidence returned. At that moment, the system issued a warning. Seza was now identified as Boss Rodrigo. Meanwhile, Yi Jing's berserk state had ended, and 30 seconds of weakness began. Wiping blood from his lips, he was shocked the system truly ranked him as a boss. From afar, Chutong called out in worry, while Yi Jing cursed the terrible timing. Seza laughed loudly and said the price of power was simply abandoning human dignity. The moment he finished speaking, Seza rushed forward, cracking the ground beneath his feet. He claimed that once you abandoned being human and became a monster, no moral limits could bind you. Yi Jing instantly dodged the incoming strike. Seza had completely lost his calm. He attacked like a crazed beast, tireless, screaming that any price was worth this power. Yi Jing glanced up calmly. Seza was diving from the air with terrifying momentum. Watching that scene, Chutong couldn't hide his shock at such overwhelming strength. A wave of helplessness rose in his heart. Compared to true powerhouses, they were nobodies. Yi Jing had been hiding his real strength all along, and the gap was far beyond imagination. Meanwhile, Seza's body mutated further. Even full-force attacks barely affected him. The pressure from his explosive aura made the air tremble. Seza threw his head back and laughed, saying the strong were born to rule, and the weak could only kneel. To him, this monstrous appearance was a small price for supreme power. His claws grew longer. His red eyes gleamed like a predator. Suddenly, Seza remembered there was still one person left. His cold gaze shifted to Chutong. Yi Jing calmly remarked that however ugly Seza became had nothing to do with him. Seza stepped forward and declared the mission to collect magic crystals was ruined, and Chutong would be the final witness to this tragic ending. He even mocked that he would grant Chutong a special death. Chutong stumbled back in panic. By instinct, he raised his hand to keep distance and begged for a little more time, saying he still had something to say. Seza sneered that a useless bard sure talked a lot. Without listening further, he grabbed Chutong by the throat and lifted him up. Even so, he asked if there were any last words. Chutong rasped that the only thing he wanted was to leave the abyss alive. Seza tightened his grip, nearly cutting off his breath. Still, Chutong forced out that Seza wouldn't be the only one witnessing this tragedy. Hearing that, Seza turned toward the pile of blood demon, remains he had destroyed, and sensed something wrong. From within the regenerating mass of flesh, Yi Jing stepped out unharmed. He casually tossed aside the empty cup and said, thanks to Chutong buying time, his weakened state had ended. Raising the blood dream demon in his hand, Yi Jing calmly explained that observing from outside wasn't enough to understand Seza's body. He had used the demon's special ability to make direct contact and gather all hidden information. Seza narrowed his eyes. Though he admired his opponent slightly, he couldn't hide his confusion. Was the one he killed just a disguise? When had it started? Yi Jing patiently answered as if giving final words. Power beyond limits always came with a price. A fighter's berserk skill boosted strength briefly, but the cost was 30 seconds of exhaustion. Yi Jing's gaze turned icy. Seza's body had crossed the line between human and monster. When he reached into the abyss for power, the abyss would demand payment in return. Seza laughed mockingly. In his mind, all this power belonged to him alone. His savage expression shifted back to Chutong. Seza roared and charged, determined to kill him immediately. Chutong froze in fear. Looking at Yi Jing now, he felt the man had completely changed and instinctively shouted a warning. But in that instant, Yi Jing moved first. A sudden blow slammed into Seza, catching him off guard and forcing a cry of pain. The ambush made him retreat and readjust his stance. During the clash, Yi Jing quickly realized that the extreme mutation had greatly reduced Seza's speed. The battle raged on. Both fought with everything. Neither planned to step back. Blocking and striking barehanded, Yi Jing felt how inconvenient it was. With a weapon, this would be much easier. Seeing the stalemate and Yi Jing starting to lose ground, Chutong shouted his name. Then he threw the dagger toward Yi Jing and yelled for him to catch it. Yi Jing is slightly surprised, but still catches his familiar dagger in one smooth move. Seza, fully mutated with dark red spikes all over his body, charges like a wild predator straight at Yi Jing. Yi Jing leaps up and throws a counterpunch, but Seza blocks it instantly. Right after the clash, Yi Jing shifts direction mid-air, appears behind Seza, and leaves a deep slash across his back. After landing the hit, he pulls back at once. Seza grits his teeth, furious as he realizes every strike targets a vital spot. Yi Jing smirks and reminds him that speed and agility have always been his strongest weapons. Seza's eyes glow red, blood dripping from his mouth. He roars that this insult will only make Yi Jing's death more painful, because he has reached a higher level of existence. His sharp claws tear through the air, but Yi Jing simply tilts his body and dodges with ease. While evading, Yi Jing coldly asks what this so-called higher existence even means. His fist slams straight into Seza's face. Yi Jing says to him, he is no different from the demonic creatures crawling in the abyss. Seza clutches his head and screams. His red pupils suddenly widen as if something inside him is violently changing. His clothes rip apart, muscles swelling unnaturally. The look in his eyes is now that of a true monster. Seeing this, Yi Jing understands Seza has fallen too deep, and there is no turning back. His gaze turns icy. Staring at the creature before him, he asks if Seiza has heard the call of the abyss. Those words make Seiza's eyes snap wide open. Terror floods his face as if he is seeing something horrifying. He screams for it to disappear and stop dragging him down. Seiza completely loses his mind, punching wildly while shouting that he has proven his worth. He refuses to be cannon fodder and refuses to die. Zhu Tong watches in shock. He realizes Seiza's mind has collapsed, and this is the perfect opening. Yi Jing also shifts his gaze to the out-of-control monster, his expression deadly serious. Seiza spreads his arms and throws his head back, laughing like a madman. At that moment, Yi Jing calls Zhu Tong captain and says his main body is switching positions with the Blood Dream Demon. As Yi Jing's body slowly fades, Zhu Tong panics. Zhu Tong is almost in tears, thinking Yi Jing is about to die, but Yi Jing calmly checks a new system mission. The condition is to defeat Seiza without killing him for a rare reward, and even Yi Jing finds it absurdly difficult. He quickly calculates. Someone like Seiza can never be taken as a prisoner. Even his own team would not accept his current form. Still, the rare reward is tempting enough to try. Before fully disappearing, Yi Jing tells Zhu Tong to keep Seiza distracted for 5 seconds. He also states that killing Seiza is no longer necessary. Yi Jing recalls the demonic creatures of the abyss, and one unchanging rule. Anyone completely demonized no longer belongs to the outside world. As Seiza turns and walks deeper into the darkness of the abyss, Yi Jing understands the abyss has officially accepted him. Seiza's figure fades into the night. Yi Jing remembers the rumor that when the blood moon rises, beasts go mad. This time, the one who lost his mind is human. Somewhere else, a giant spiked monster hides on the cave ceiling. Below, Lao Chen happily collects loot after the battle. Opening a chest he just found, he sees countless skill cards inside and cannot hide his greed. He laughs in excitement, believing this is finally his chance to change his fate. Hugging the stack of cards, Lao Chen imagines new gear and a glorious future. Sadly, he does not notice Seiza standing behind him, eyes crazed and drool dripping. Sometime later, inside a luxurious tavern, Zhu Tong suddenly slams his head onto the table and loudly begs to call Yi Jing big brother, declaring he wants to follow him from now on. Yi Jing freezes with a cup in hand. Embarrassed, he says he is not used to such grand gestures. But Zhu Tong is dead serious, saying those words inspired him to live on and become a king, and he swears loyalty for life. Yi Jing can only sigh. He admits he just said those lines to boost morale, and now he is so embarrassed he wants to hide. But Zhu Tong does not believe that at all. In his eyes, Yi Jing's words helped him find his worth and a goal to chase. Hearing this, Yi Jing starts sweating. He asks about Zhu Tong's future plans, and Zhu Tong confidently brings up being called the #1 support. Yi Jing goes blank, not remembering ever saying that. Full of passion, Zhu Tong declares his goal is to become the strongest support of them all. That only makes Yi Jing more worried. With Zhu Tong's current luck and strength, surviving this long is already a miracle, and more encouragement might just push him toward death. Meanwhile, Zhu Tong keeps dreaming about the future. He imagines Yi Jing charging ahead while he supports from behind, forming the perfect team. But Yi Jing cuts him off and tells him not to return to the abyss. Those words hit like cold water. Zhu Tong freezes and asks if he heard that right. Yi Jing bluntly says, a support who can only buff others but is too weak to protect himself is not qualified. Even feeling guilty, he says it because he does not want Zhu Tong gambling his life again. After a heavy silence, Yi Jing takes out 1,000 demon crystals and places them on the table. He says it is enough for a long time, as long as Zhu Tong promises never to enter the abyss again. Zhu Tong stares at the crystals, deep in thought. He clenches his fists and admits he knows those harsh words come from Yi Jing's concern. But Zhu Tong firmly says he cannot accept living as someone useless. He would rather risk his life than live under contempt. Yi Jing is somewhat satisfied with that resolve, but he keeps persuading him. His eyes are firm as he says someone who cannot protect himself, cannot protect anyone else. Then he takes out a broken sword and reminds Zhu Tong that his staff only uses one hand. Seeing it, Zhu Tong instantly recognizes it as Old Lis's sword. Right in front of him, Yi Jing restores the sword to its complete form and slams it onto the table, leaving Zhu Tong stunned. Yi Jing begins explaining the profession called Corpse Bard. It combines magic and close combat, boosts support power, weakens enemy spells, and even controls magical attacks. Under Zhu Tong's shocked gaze, Yi Jing says he could not wield this sword before because of Old Li. From now on, he should use it to carry on Old Li's will. That is the true way to repay the dead. Zhu Tong takes the sword, bows deeply, and firmly says he does not need the demon crystals. Yi Jing immediately tells him to give them to the families of Lao Ju and Old Li instead. There will be plenty of chances to earn more in the future. Zhu Tong rests the sword on his shoulder, spirit reignited, and loudly agrees. In a pitch-black space, a bright pink energy core glows, filled with moving white streaks of light. 3 people stand within it. A striking young woman holds a file and begins her report. After the Blood Red Moon incident, an Shrank team was sent to clear the Abyss Zone. 8 bodies from the Blood Oath team were found. As for Captain Seiza, he was heavily corrupted by the Abyss, fully turned into a monster, and is now on the elimination list. The man sitting in the chair listens closely. When he hears that other unrelated bodies were found, including a familiar face, he immediately asks for the name. The woman hands over the file and says, "It is Chen Xingdian, previously accused of killing his teammate during an Abyss expedition." Holding the files of Chen Xingdian and Seza, the woman explains that Chen Xingdian's body still had full high-grade gear. Most likely, after Seza mutated, a fierce battle broke out between them. In the end, Seza was killed, possibly due to an unexpected variable. After reviewing the file, the man asks if there was only one variable. The woman confirms. He calmly says he understands. The man beside him asks if their plan has failed. The one in the chair tightens his grip on the file and coldly says Chiza was just a useless pawn, unable to prove his value and only capable of dragging others down. The story now shifts to Shenfeng City People's Hospital. Inside, the hospital is as crowded as ever. At that moment, a man in a white lab coat quietly enters through the emergency stairwell. In a sealed room, a haggard man sits on the floor, trembling and muttering for forgiveness, saying he has no other choice this time. He slowly raises his hand, revealing a strange purple-black lock, choking that he is only acting under pressure. The object suddenly emits a bizarre purple glow. The light rapidly spreads throughout the area. Countless purple-black streaks shoot out like venomous snakes, sweeping toward nearby civilians. Panic screams erupt everywhere. The man stares ahead in horror, as if realizing something terrifying. In mid-air, the purple light tears open space and forms a massive gate. The crowd descends into chaos, recognizing it as an abyss gate and sounding the alarm. At the same time, in a familiar memory, flames blaze again. A vicious demonic beast chases two siblings. The older brother runs while telling his sister never to let go and never look back. But the distance closes fast. Seeing the beast leap forward, the brother can only scream for Xiaozhu to run. The monster's sharp claws sweep across, knocking the brother to the ground. The impact makes the boy cry out in pain. His little sister is bitten by the beast, crying in despair as she calls for her brother. Yi Jing jolts awake in bed, gasping for air. The familiar nightmare has returned again. His body is soaked in sweat, his breathing still unstable. Lying back down, he rubs his forehead in frustration. The same dream keeps repeating. Just then, he suddenly remembers something as he looks at his phone. Not long after, Ye Jing arrives at a flower shop in the city. As soon as he enters, he greets the owner and asks for a bouquet. Sister Zheng smiles and asks if he is visiting his sister again. Yi Jing nods and says work delayed him. Sister Zheng warmly encourages him, saying his sister is lucky to have such a caring brother. She even compliments his new haircut. The earlier image flashes in Yi Jing's mind. A burly uncle once dragged him to try a new hairstyle, a memory that still gives him chills. To change the topic, he helps Sister Zheng carry 2 flower pots outside, and she thanks him happily. As they step out front, 2 military vehicles speed past. Sister Zheng looks confused, saying many vehicles have rushed toward the hospital, including several from Awakeners. She suspects something big happened. At the word hospital, Ye Jing sharpens his focus. As if recalling something crucial, he instantly bursts forward and shoots into the sky, leaving the flower shop owner frozen in shock. His figure slices through the air, racing past high-rise buildings at extreme speed. In a short time, he appears at the hospital entrance, where an abyss gate stands open. Orders to seal the area echo non-stop. Seeing the scene, Ye Jing is stunned. He cannot understand why an abyss gate would appear here. The moment he lands, nearby guards notice him. A security officer signals him to step back, stating the area is sealed and civilians are not allowed near. But seconds later, the officer's face changes as if recognizing someone terrifying. He nervously watches Ye Jing walk calmly toward the abyss entrance. A middle-aged man approaches and knocks the guard on the head, scolding him for letting outsiders enter a dangerous zone. The guard hurriedly explains that the young man is the same kind of figure as those who went in earlier, people they cannot afford to offend. Hearing that, the middle-aged man simply tells him to leave it. As Yi Jing moves deeper inside, his eyes are filled with determination. In his heart, only one thought remains. This time, he must save his sister. Stepping through the abyss gate, a massive multi-level castle appears before him. He quickly realizes the abyss transformation has created an entirely new space inside the hospital, far larger than the building outside. After scanning the area, Ye Jing notices most of it has already been cleared. It seems a professional Awakener team entered before him. He bends down and picks up a bottle left on the ground. A bit of blue liquid remains inside. One glance is enough for him to know this is an expensive item used by wealthy hunting teams. A similar blue potion appears in his hand. After checking, he confirms it is a large mana recovery potion, restoring 85 mana instantly, reducing fatigue, and cutting mana consumption in half for the next 30 seconds. Holding the potion, Ye Jing calculates silently. This time he plans to enter the abyss alone to find Xiaozhu, so his mana usage will far exceed normal. Every preparation must be precise. After walking further, he stops as 2 separate paths appear ahead, leading in different directions. A faint purple glow flashes in his pupils as he activates his observation ability. A system panel appears, stating that once a path is chosen, the other cannot be returned to. Yi Jing crouches to examine the marks on the ground and deduces they were left not long ago, likely by the earlier hunter team. If their goal was rescue, then he should choose the opposite path to increase his chance of finding Xiao Zhu. Picking up one of the markers, he turns and heads the other way. He cannot help but think this abyss is unimaginably vast, possibly requiring every branch to be cleared before reaching the deepest zone. He quickly pushes aside the thought. For ordinary people trapped here, every second is deadly. He must race against time. As he runs, he notices a long red carpet stretching ahead. This suggests no one has stepped into this area yet. Looking back, Ye Jing sees the previous path completely sealed by a purple light barrier. The retreat is gone. He takes out a staff with a strange eye embedded at the top, recalling its function. If he gets lost in a maze, it can at least record part of the terrain. Gripping the staff, he activates it. The system announces that the Eye of Argos has been used. He immediately requests to open the map. The reply states the map cannot display the current area. Observing his surroundings, Ye Jing understands why others left manual marks. Here, almost all navigation methods are useless. This must be one of the Abyss's special rules. Just then, from a door swallowed in darkness, a twisted mass of flesh with countless tentacles crawls in. He instantly turns around, tightening his grip on his weapon, wondering if this is a trap mechanism. But he quickly dismisses the idea since he heard no activation sound. Yi Jing focuses on sensing every movement. The space is eerily silent. In that very moment, danger erupts from behind him. A shadowy figure holding a massive axe suddenly slams down from the rear. Acting on instinct, he narrowly dodges the fatal strike. After flipping, he plants one hand on the ground and stabilizes himself. Without hesitation, he dashes forward and unleashes a powerful horizontal slash. The blade splits the enemy in half, but a system notification shocks him. The attack is completely ineffective. Seeing this, Ye Jing immediately considers that the monster may be immune to physical damage. In an instant, the severed body fuses back together as if nothing happened. It then roars and releases a terrifying sonic wave. He tries to cover his ears, but it is useless. Blood spills from his senses, and the system warns that he has entered a deafened state. His environmental awareness is severely reduced. Only now does he realize he made a massive mistake by underestimating the abyss. Enduring the pain, he searches his memory about this creature. After a few seconds, he recalls it is a monster that operates under special rules. A memory surfaces. 3 years ago, he once sat among scattered demon crystals, with massive strange-shaped stones before him. Back then, he was panting while cautiously observing the bizarre statues, feeling uneasy. The stone statues all resembled humans, with wings on their backs, like angels. He even felt relieved, thinking it could have been something worse. After confirming they were just statues, he calmly collected every demon crystal on the ground, reminding himself not to waste a single piece. But outside his sight, the statues had already begun to move, silently watching his every action. At that moment, he senses something wrong and instantly turns around. In front of him are countless re-dyed creatures reaching toward him at the same time. Yi Jing jumps up in shock. Just seconds ago, they were nothing but motionless stones. A man nearby shouts a warning. Never turn your back on them. Always keep them in sight. They are crying stone demons. The name alone sends chills down Yi Jing's spine. Hearing the voice, Yi Jing almost turns his head again. The man yells for him to stare at the statues, not at him. Yi Jing quickly obeys. The man explains that monsters in the demon abyss act by strict rules. The higher the rank, the more terrifying the rule. These rank-crying stone demons do not hunt actively, but once someone sees them, they turn to stone and lock onto that target. He continues that the moment the target looks away, they move at horrifying speed and can kill most awakeners instantly. Yi Jing asks what to do next. The man tells him to follow orders exactly. Keep staring at them and slowly back toward the door. Do not blink. Yi Jing wipes his sweat and nods. They begin stepping back. Step by step, they leave the dangerous room. But suddenly, Ye Jing kicks a loose stone on the ground. He loses balance and falls, demon crystals scattering everywhere. The man beside him turns pale. The statues open their eyes at once, letting out eerie screams as they come to life. They slowly approach. In desperation, the man grabs a lever fixed to the wall. He pulls it down with all his strength. A massive stone wall crashes down, sealing the entrance. Yi Jing lies on the floor, still shaken. He sighs in relief and thanks the man. The man laughs and says he is lucky. If he had charged them head-on like others, he would be dead without hurting them at all. The man proudly adds that while he lacks combat power, his survival experience is second to none. The memory ends. Back in reality, a flame appears in Yi Jing's hand. His past experience still holds value. A faint golden light spreads from his body. If the enemy is immune to physical damage, then magic must be the key. Without hesitation, he raises his hand to cast Great Explosion Flame. But the moment he activates it, his expression changes. The fire feels wrong. The familiar red flame turns green, and the energy surges far beyond before. Feeling the terrifying heat, Yi Jing curses inwardly. The control over fire here is clearly distorted. With no choice, he extinguishes the flame. Most of his combat style relies on fire. Meanwhile, the monster swings its scythe again. As the attack closes in, an image of a hunting wolf flashes in his mind. With boosted speed, he narrowly avoids the strike. Wiping blood from his mouth, he frowns. Xiao Zhu is still missing, yet he is already stalled in the first room. Unacceptable. The enemy is immune to physical damage, but fights in close combat. Something does not add up. The monster gives him no time to think, and charges again with its scythe. A red arc slices through the air. Yi Jing leaps high and dodges. But the creature keeps chasing, without pause. He draws his blade and blocks the descending scythe directly. At the moment of impact, his purple eyes flash. A sudden thought hits him. This attack can be blocked. While evading the next strike, he pieces everything together. He finally understands the ability. This evil spirit only materializes when it attacks. Dodging again, he notices the scythe has not yet been withdrawn. That means during that window, it loses physical immunity. Seizing the rare chance, he bursts forward. The blade in his hand tore through the air like lightning and sliced across the enemy. Ye Jing calmly realized that once it started attacking, pure physical damage became its fatal weakness. The moment it was hit, the monster's body erupted in a blinding red glow. Yi Jing looked up at the floating energy sphere above with a dark expression. The red sphere shook violently, like something inside was about to break out. Just seconds later, the monster's figure appeared once again. This time it was twice as large, wrapped in heavy evil aura. Yi Jing smirked. So this was its second evolution. The monster roared and pulled all nearby energy into its body. Feeling the rising pressure, Ye Jing started thinking about survival. His hearing was wrecked by the earlier scream, and his awareness was crippled. Maybe it was time to activate Immortal Blood Cloud Body. But he shut that idea down instantly. The skill was still on cooldown for at least 30 more seconds, and his mana couldn't handle that insane drain back to back. The monster suddenly accelerated and swung its scythe straight at Yi Jing. Blood burst from both his shoulders. He gritted his teeth, knowing he barely survived by luck. This thing's ability was a nightmare to deal with. Right then, the system notified him that his wounds were healed and all debuffs were removed. Green light covered his body. Yi Jing understood. Keeping his HP stable was the top priority. But instead of pressing forward, the monster suddenly showed fear. It quickly retreated. Yi Jing noticed that in its second evolution, the evil spirit was extremely afraid of light. Even the faint glow from his healing skill kept it at bay. Realizing the key point, he smiled. A red flame ignited in his palm. The monster seemed to recall the strange blue fire before and showed a smug expression. Yi Jing clenched his burning hand. Then he slammed the flame straight into his own chest. The monster froze as his entire body was engulfed in fire. With a dangerous smile, Ye Jing said everything was clear now. Facing the massive flames, the monster turned and ran like it had seen its natural enemy. Enduring the searing pain, he figured it out. The evil spirit feared fire because it was its core weakness. Burned souls haunted its instincts, but its scream curse destabilized fire skills, making them almost impossible to use normally. The phantom of a werewolf appeared around his body again. Yi Jing charged forward and grabbed the struggling monster. He roared that if he couldn't cast fire normally, then he would become the fire. The evil spirit screamed in agony. Holding it tight, he unleashed all his power and activated Great Explosion Flame. A blinding light detonated and lit up the entire area. After the violent blast, both of them crashed heavily onto the ground. Looking at the fading flames, Ye Jing saw the system confirm the evil spirit was eliminated. Another alert popped up. His HP had dropped below 10%. The system warned that his arm was severely burned and temporarily unusable for weapons or spells. Still, Ye Jing was satisfied. The price was high, but acceptable. Once his strongest healing skill cooled down, he would recover. But when he looked at the burning remains, his face changed. If the loot turned to ash, that would be a disaster. He immediately pointed at the corpse. Two giant hands appeared from thin air and dragged it over. Yi Jing quickly activated the retrieval ability. A card appeared, showing the Grim Reaper holding a scythe. It was the divine artifact Sony Aper. It could summon an evil spirit to sweep across a wide area with a death scythe, dealing massive true damage. If the skill killed a target, Despair Harvest would trigger, restoring HP and mana. If multiple targets were harvested at once, the user entered short-term invisibility, immune to physical attacks and able to pass through obstacles. But if the strike failed to kill, all damage would reflect back to the user. This soulbound divine artifact could not be traded or equipped by anyone else. Holding the card, Ye Jing let out a tired sigh. The price he paid was huge, and this was his first time seeing a soulbound divine artifact. After reading the effects, he judged it terrifying. As long as it secured a kill, it converted the result into massive HP and mana. In large-scale battles, one perfect activation could flip everything, but if it failed to kill, the backlash could instantly end him. When he looked back, the purple barrier was completely gone. The door to the next area had opened. Right then, the system notified that super regeneration was off cooldown. Green light covered his body. He activated it without hesitation. After recovering, Ye Jing stared forward with firm resolve. His only goal now was to find Xiao Zhu. Elsewhere in the abyss, inside a room filled with hanging corpses, a man stood by a stone table dismembering a body. Not far away, a teddy bear lay quietly on the floor. A severed arm was tossed into a wooden barrel with a loud thud, making the person hiding nearby flinch. That person was Xiaozhu. She clutched a jar tightly, her face tense with fear. Gathering her courage, she threw the jar far away to create a distraction. The noise immediately drew the monster's attention. Hiding behind cover, Xiaozhu shut her eyes and forced herself to stay calm, even as panic filled her heart. But at that moment, the object she leaned on suddenly slipped, and she lost balance and fell out into the open. She held her head and sat up, her face twisted in pain. Seeing the teddy bear ahead, Xiaozhu trembled as she crawled toward it. She swore she would not let her brother suffer anymore. But before she could reach it, a foot crushed down and smashed the teddy bear right in front of her. When she looked up, she met the burning red eyes of a terrifying creature locking onto her. The monster opened its mouth full of sharp teeth and let out a piercing roar. In the blood-soaked room, a massive creature several times taller than her slowly closed in. Terrified beyond control, Yoon burst into tears and screamed for someone to save her. Just as the monster's weapon was about to fall, a figure suddenly rushed in from behind and struck its back. The creature's eyes widened in shock. In a single instant, its body was split cleanly in two by a sharp blade. Ye Xiaozhu stood frozen, unable to believe what she had just seen. In front of her stood a man holding a great sword, steady like a true warrior. It was Wu Ming. She let out a breath of relief and immediately guessed his identity. He was a hunter. The man coldly turned and walked away without even glancing at her, forcing her to call out to him. In fear, she grabbed his leg and begged him to take her out of this nightmare. He calmly replied that this area was already cleared, and she could survive if she stayed. But if she insisted on following him, her chances of dying would be extremely high. Even as she called after him, she made up her mind to live on and reunite with her brother one day. It was their promise. The story shifts back 7 years. Ye Jing stood in silence as the doctor told him his sister's spine was severely damaged. Keeping upper body movement was already a miracle. In a low voice, he asked in despair if that meant she would never stand on her own again. The doctor confirmed that modern medicine could barely treat this kind of injury, but the word barely sparked hope in Yi Jing's eyes. He immediately asked if there was any chance at all and what he needed to do to save his sister. The doctor explained that science had no answer, but in the abyss, miracles had happened before. Recently, items and healing methods beyond scientific understanding had appeared there. If her injury was linked to abyss monsters, the solution might also lie there. Hearing that, Ye Jing looked at his own hand and swore that if a cure existed in the abyss, then as long as he could enter it, his sister still had hope. The doctor warned that only those with a profession were qualified to enter the abyss. Ordinary people stepping inside were walking to their deaths, and the daily treatment alone cost nearly 8,000 yuan. Yi Jing immediately stood up, bowed in thanks, and promised to find the money. He only asked the doctor to keep treating his sister. Before leaving, the doctor said he would try his best, but the medical bills had to be paid on time. Ye Jing swore he would do whatever it took. In the hallway, he heard people whispering about his situation. Their words made his expression heavier. His parents died on the same day, and his sister was crippled. Everything rested on him. The pitying whispers continued, but he only gave a faint smile. The moment he entered the hospital room, he greeted his sister with a bright smile. She immediately asked where he had been. Sitting beside her bed, he said he had spoken with the doctor. Then he mentioned he was about to go to a place called the Abyss. Hearing that name, the girl grew uneasy and asked if it was really safe. He kept smiling and reassured her. There was nothing to fear, just follow the rules. Then he suddenly remembered something. He took out a teddy bear and said he could not stay by her side often, so this bear would protect her in his place. Sensing something wrong, she burst into tears. He was her only family left. She begged him not to risk his life. Yi Jing forced a smile and said he found a high-paying job, enough to cure her legs. She just needed to wait a little longer, and she would stand again. The girl firmly said that if the money meant he had to fight monsters, she would rather stay in a wheelchair forever. Yi Jing reached out his hand and made a pinky promise. He swore he would never gamble his life. He told her to hook fingers as proof. Thinking about her brother entering the abyss for her sake, Ye Xiaozhu felt even more anxious. She did not want him risking everything. She clung to him and begged him never to do anything dangerous. Hearing that, Wu Ming glanced over in surprise and commented that this girl truly valued her life. He casually grabbed her collar and lifted her up, warning that if monsters targeted her, he would not protect her. Back in her wheelchair, Ye Xiaozhu sighed in relief. At least it was not damaged. Wu Ming coldly stated that she was not his employer, so her life or death meant nothing to him. She replied that following from a distance was enough. Then he introduced himself as Wu Ming, a dual divine swordsman. Elsewhere, Ye Jing moved forward while recalling his time as a corpse collector. He had seen many medicines that healed injuries, but all had limits. The abyss had a strange rule. Any injury that existed before entering could not be healed beyond its original state. A pre-existing burn, for example, could never fully recover inside the abyss. That rule frustrated him. If it did not exist, he might have cured Xiao Zu's legs long ago. Just then, something ahead made him stop. Corpses were scattered everywhere. From the scene, he judged a massacre had just happened. Considering the monsters in this zone, a group of awakened likely walked into a trap and got wiped out. After scanning the area and finding no monsters nearby, he guessed some survivors might have escaped earlier. Then another sight caught his attention. A gigantic beast lay split cleanly in half. What shocked Yi Jing was that the cut carried no trace of magic. Even his Eye of Slaughter could not analyze it. Observing the bodies, he noticed most victims were speed or intelligence types. It suggested the killer relied purely on overwhelming strength. His fighting spirit surged. In Yi Jing's judgment, whoever did this was far beyond the dead awakened, on a completely different level. In the dark and silent corridor, the sound of wheels and footsteps echoed clearly. Suddenly, Wu Ming stopped walking, startling Yi Xiaoju. Ahead of them, 4 golden lights suddenly appeared in midair. They shot forward at extreme speed, aiming straight at Wu Ming. The sight made Xiaoju scream in fear. After the ambush, Wu Ming's body was riddled with holes, yet he remained standing without moving. A moment later, he opened his eyes. Small cracks appeared on his forehead, making Yi Xiaozu nervously ask if he was badly hurt. Wu Ming looked confused and repeated one word, as if he did not understand. Hurt? The memory shifts back 4 years. Inside an rank secret realm called Tongbian Ancient Pool, a corpse king boss was crushing a man's head with its bandaged hand. With just a slight squeeze, the victim screamed in agony. Then the corpse king raised its arm. Blood splattered everywhere as the others watched in horror. A well-dressed old man angrily cursed the mercenaries, saying he paid a fortune, and yet they still hesitated. Pointing at Wu Ming, he reminded them he had paid double to buy the lives of everyone standing here. Wu Ming thought to himself that as a criminal without legal status, private hunting teams were his only way to survive. Missions like this were near suicide, so the pay was always absurdly high. The old man shouted again, offering 100,000 credit points to whoever killed the corpse king. Then he raised it to 200,000. Wu Ming felt like this was a bet that kept doubling. A teammate greedily shouted 25,000 in cash, but Wu Ming knew what was truly on the table was their lives. When the employer confirmed 25,000, the mercenaries went mad. They rushed forward, blinded by greed. The corpse king's pupils suddenly turned golden. It roared and ordered the 2 mummies behind it to attack. The strongest man in the group laughed greedily, eyes filled with the reward ahead. 2 of them charged straight at the corpse king. The boss let out a deafening roar as golden light burst from its body. With a single claw sweep, it tore both men apart midair. Then the corpse king locked its gaze onto Wu Ming. A golden fist slammed into his face and sent him flying dozens of meters away. The corpse king immediately turned toward the employer. Pale with fear, the old man stumbled back, shouting that as long as he lived, the reward would be paid. Wu Ming wiped the blood from his mouth, recalling the employer's words that their lives had been bought. Seeing the corpse king rush toward another target, he forced himself up and chased after it. Blood still dripped from his lips, but his eyes were now completely reckless. Seizing the chance, Wu Ming swung his sword and slashed across the corpse king's waist. Gasping for breath, he stared at the boss corpse and muttered that it was finally over. After the corpse king died, a chest and a jade bead appeared. The employer rushed forward and shoved Wu Ming aside to open the reward himself. Coughing blood, Wu Ming reminded him of the promised double payment. The old man sneered and said what use was money to someone about to die. Greed filled his face as he bragged that buying information about this secret realm was worth every penny. The chest opened, and golden light burst out, stunning him. But when he reached inside, his expression twisted in fury. The chest was completely empty, all that effort for nothing. Suddenly he clutched his head and screamed. Tears and saliva poured out as pain consumed him. In the next second, his body exploded and vanished. Wu Ming instantly realized it was a death curse. He was horrified that the reward itself hid such danger. Just then, he felt something flowing from the corner of his eye, and suspected he had been cursed too. Holding his face, he looked at the remaining jade bead and wondered if it was the corpse king's treasure pearl that could break the curse. When he picked it up, information appeared. Divine artifact, holy relic of immortality. It soulbound the owner and turned them into an immortal being. In exchange, holy and healing magic became fatal attacks, while normal damage could no longer kill them. His armor fell to the ground as his body began to change, escaping the laws of the living. The price was that pain and many emotions slowly faded away. In silence, Wu Ming realized that from this moment on, he had become someone who could no longer die. Back to the present, Ye Xiaozu noticed Wu Ming's blood had a strange color and suspected he was under some kind of curse. Wu Ming only glanced at her and said nothing. Then he turned and walked away, making Ye Xiaozu angrily call out after being completely ignored. The ground was soaked in fresh blood, and weapons were scattered everywhere like after a brutal war. From every direction, waves of monsters kept rushing in without end. In the middle of the chaos, he continued walking forward calmly. Every swing of his blade split a monster in two. While fighting, he calculated that without time to optimize stats, he had evenly distributed all free points. His total had now exceeded 200. After a brief thought, he made a quick decision. A sudden attack brushed past his head. He threw a counterpunch and reassessed the situation, knowing no one could predict what waited in the next room. Watching endless waves of monsters appear, he knew one wrong judgment about his condition could cost him his life. He leaped high, passed over his enemy's head, and cut it down mid-air. But the moment one fell, another instantly filled the gap, giving him no time to rest. Surrounded, he spun his blade and activated Dagger Frenzy. Just then, the system warned his mana had dropped below 5. Cold sweat ran down his back as he realized his magic was almost gone. A monster lunged at him. Even so, he stayed calm. Purple energy began gathering densely around his fist. He threw a straight punch, choosing pure attribute power over mana-consuming skills. Seeing more monsters flooding in from afar, he felt irritated. This fight had no end. After clearing 4 rooms in a row, exhaustion piled up. His max mana was now only half of what it was. All mana potions were gone, except for the special one he got upon entering the abyss. Charging into the horde, he reminded himself that item was too precious to waste unless absolutely necessary. One monster was blasted away, its teeth scattering across the floor. A heavy punch nearly popped its eyes out, black foul blood splashing everywhere. Another monster was crushed the same way by his knee. Using the momentum, he leaped up and locked one monster's neck from behind, making it howl wildly. With a sharp twist, the head tore off instantly, black blood spreading across the ground. The moment he landed, he looked up and saw the next wave already charging in. In his hand, the Death Soul card glowed blood red, activating the divine artifact Soul Reaper. The phantom of the Grim Reaper condensed and rushed into the horde. He knew the side effects well and rarely used it, but against dying targets, Despair Harvest gave insane recovery. Before the monsters could react, a red streak pierced through their formation at unbelievable speed. The system announced the special effect of Soul Reaper had triggered. HP and mana began restoring as green light wrapped around him. In an instant, both HP and mana returned to full. He exhaled in relief, saving a mana potion and avoiding super regeneration. Even though the system warned that overusing card skills would increase cooldown time, he did not care. Something on the ground had caught his attention. After stepping on it, he looked down and saw a pair of glasses. At that moment, a nearby barrel made a noise, and he immediately asked who was hiding inside. The barrel tipped over, and a trembling arm reached out, begging not to be killed, and claiming to be just an ordinary person. Yi Jing silently observed. The man tried to stay calm and pointed at the glasses in Yi Jing's hand, saying they belonged to him. After getting them back, the man looked relieved and introduced himself as Song Qingshan, a doctor and researcher here. He explained that earlier, for unknown reasons, a massive number of monsters suddenly appeared in his work area, just like the ones Yi Jing had killed. Terrified, he rushed into a random room and hid inside a storage box. With a blank face, Yi Jing asked if anyone else was still alive. Song Qingshan scoffed at the question. This was a hospital inside the abyss. Even healthy people could barely survive, let alone disabled patients. Yi Jing grabbed his collar and demanded an answer. As a doctor, those words were heartless, but Song Qingshan felt no guilt. He said he was a doctor, not an awakened, so saving himself came first. Forcing a stiff smile, he carefully asked if Yi Jing was sent here to rescue him. With clear contempt in his eyes, he urged Yi Jing not to waste time. Just get him out, and the Lionheart beast would pay generously. Hearing that name, Yi Jing frowned. You mean Seza? The golden lion badge flashed in his mind, along with the notice of gaining 150 free attribute points after killing Seza. He remembered Zhu Tong picking up that badge and saying it belonged to an organization called Lionheart Beast. From what he knew, it was a famous hunting group that only accepted top-tier elites. Even Ye Jing had to admit their entry standards were insanely high. Back to the present, he walked right past Song Qingshan. The man panicked and shouted that he was heading away from the exit. Yi Jing tilted his head and asked if he ran here from the treatment ward. Song Qingshan confirmed and even advised him not to bother saving the disabled since they couldn't pay. Yi Jing replied coldly that he wasn't looking for an exit. His goal was ahead, where his sister was trapped. Song Qingshan finally sensed something was wrong. He nervously asked if Yi Jing wasn't sent by Lionheart Beast after all. Yi Jing calmly confirmed. He was just a corpse collector in the abyss. His pupils slowly turned purple as he said in an icy tone that he wasn't some world-saving hero. Then he turned and headed toward the purple light gate. Song Qingshan hurried after him. Still unwilling to give up, he explained that the area had turned into a giant maze. Keep going, and they'd get lost in endless paths. Realizing he still had value, he offered to guide the way. They could find Yi Jing's sister and escape safely together. Even without a reply, Song Qingshan assumed approval and stepped through the teleport gate, non-stop talking about directions. Yi Jing followed right behind him. On the way, Song Qingshan cautiously asked which hunter team he belonged to. Yi Jing answered shortly. He wasn't part of any organization. That shocked him. In this era, lone hunters were extremely rare. Song Qingshan kept rambling. Strong fighters were recruited by top guilds like Tatus, Investment Tower, Leo 1, Lionheart Beast, and Cloud Peak. They paid well and had resources to dive into the deepest abyss layers. He even offered to recommend Yi Jing after they got out. Annoyed, Yi Jing finally cut him off. If he wanted to guide, then stay quiet and focus on finding Ye Xiaoju. The moment he heard that name, Song Qingshan's face changed. Cold sweat ran down his back. He recalled the files of 2 girls who joined the experiment, and the conversations from before. Back then, a man across from him had smirked and said there was no need to care about the girls' backgrounds. One of them was Ye Xiaoju, living only with her older brother. The man mocked that her brother was just a corpse collector in the abyss. If he died someday, no one would even notice. The other girl was Lin Shuyan, whose life collapsed after her father left prison. At the time, Song Qingshan wondered how to persuade them to join the trial. The man calmly said people like them required almost no effort. He explained how he manipulated Lin Shuyan. He told her that staying alive only increased her family's burden and medical costs on her unemployed father. He even planted the idea that her father visited less because he saw her as a burden. Then he shifted his focus to Yi Xiaozu's file. In front of the girl, he kept saying her brother risked his life every day to pay for her treatment. He asked if she wanted him to live safely. Hugging her teddy bear tight, the little girl nodded nervously. Seeing her waver, he offered something sweeter, a chance to change fate, stop being a burden, and maybe even awaken as an awakened. Both girls agreed quickly. Lin Shuyan volunteered to go first, and Ye Xiaoju wished to stand on her own so her brother would not suffer for her. Watching them sign the papers, the man smiled slyly and pushed the agreement forward. After it was done, he bragged that manipulating desperate kids was easy. Song Qingshan chimed in, saying even society's rejects could become useful tools. He kept flattering the director, denying his own credit and praising the man as the true genius. He claimed this research would break power limits and benefit society. The director, clearly pleased, boasted that each abyss cell was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It could open a fast track to greater power. When a researcher asked if they could begin, he immediately gave the order. The needle pierced the IV system. Experiment number 1 officially began. The purple solution slowly seeped into the girl's body. Agonizing pain made her scream, shaking everyone outside. Watching this, the director clenched his teeth, wondering what went wrong. He asked the woman monitoring the data. She reported the abyss cells were rejecting the host, and no energy fluctuations were detected. In moments, the girl mutated into a monster covered in spikes. He confirmed the transplant had failed, but quickly calmed himself. It was only a sample. There were other options. Suddenly, the woman at the security feed reported chaos outside. He frowned and asked who it was. From the speakers came an angry roar, asking where his daughter was. The woman pointed at the screen. It was the girl's father. Meanwhile, the girl's body melted into a strange puddle. Annoyed by the trouble, he ordered the father brought in. Someone moved to handle it. As guards pinned the father down, the man pretended to be polite. He scolded the guards and said the director invited him inside. Smiling warmly, he led the way and said his daughter was waiting inside. Acting refined, he introduced himself as the hospital director and assured the father his daughter was here. The father looked around desperately and asked where Yan Yan was. The man pointed to the chamber and said she had just been moved there. Seeing the container, the father froze in disbelief. The director kept smiling and said everything followed the agreement. There was just an accident, and compensation would be paid. Tears streamed down the father's face. Song Qingshan adjusted his glasses and calmly said they still needed to retrieve the body for research. The father finally snapped and punched him in the face. He screamed that they were scum and demanded his daughter back. Guards asked for orders to restrain him. Furious, the director shouted that useless people should offer their bodies to society. The death compensation was enough. The father should thank his daughter's sacrifice and take the money. The father cried that his daughter was still a minor. Forcing her to sign and taking her life was murder. He did not want money. He only wanted her alive. The director coldly called it an insult to doctors and ordered him thrown out. As guards dragged him away, the father swore they would all pay. He cursed them to fall into the abyss and never return. After he was gone, the director asked about Ye Xiaozu's condition. The observer checked the chamber and said there were no violent energy signs yet. Monitoring would continue. Someone worried her brother might cause trouble too. The director scoffed. A low-level corpse collector could do nothing. Back to the present, Yi Jing froze. You know my sister too? Song Qingshan hurriedly denied it. He said he might have just seen her in the next ward. But Yi Jing's suspicious gaze did not fade. Cold sweat ran down his face. The intel said her brother was useless. Yet Yi Jing had wiped out the monsters in that room. None of it made sense. Fear grew inside him. If Yi Jing was truly that strong, he might not survive. After all, he had abandoned Yi Xiaoju and ran. He forced himself to stay calm and kept leading. Yi Jing followed silently, his face heavy. Suddenly, Song Qingshan stopped. Yi Jing tilted his head. "Don't tell me you're lost." Startled, he quickly explained he was just worried about the girl. When monsters flooded the ward, he had to run to survive. Deep down, he almost wished Ye Xiaoju was dead. Then he could blame it all on the abyss monsters. Yi Jing stared ahead, his eyes sharpening as if he sensed something. Without hesitation, he grabbed Song Qingshan and yanked him aside. A great sword sliced through the air where they stood. Yi Jing frowned. The attack carried no monster aura. Song Qingshan turned pale and stammered, asking who it was. A man stepped out calmly and apologized, saying he mistook them for monsters. Wu Ming looked them over and recognized Director Song. He said he was sent by the Hunter Association for a rescue mission. Yi Jing looked surprised. Song Qingshan angrily shouted that he had almost been split in half. Yi Jing studied the man quietly. He recalled the sword marks at the maze entrance. Only this person could have made them. Even after losing his team, he had reached the deepest zone alone. Wu Ming introduced himself as a Shuangxin mercenary. He asked them to step aside and said the reward was so high that losing a few teammates did not matter. Yi Jing remembered the rumors about double bounty mercenaries. They risked their lives in the abyss, and if all teammates died, the survivor took the full reward. Meanwhile, Song Qingshan quickly claimed he was the rescue target. Yi Jing pulled him back and warned him. The man in front did not feel like a rescuer. That sword carried killing intent. Song Qingshan asked what killing intent he was talking about. He felt nothing. Yi Jing looked at Wu Ming and said he had no intention of stopping his mission, but he stated firmly that Song Qingshan had to stay and guide him. His sister was somewhere behind Wu Ming. Hearing the word sister, Song Qingshan's face went pale, while Wu Ming softly repeated it. He did run into a little girl on the way. Yi Jing instantly demanded her location. Meanwhile, Song Qingshan turned pale. If Yi Xiaoju was alive, he was finished. Wu Ming did not answer. He tossed a teddy bear to Yi Jing. Seeing the familiar toy, Yi Jing felt a chill and asked where it came from. Wu Ming closed his eyes and sighed. The girl was adorable, but sadly, she did not survive. Yi Jing froze. He could not believe what he just heard. In contrast, Song Qingshan was secretly overjoyed. If the girl was dead, he had escaped disaster. Noticing Yi Jing's trembling hand, Wu Ming calmly explained that he had warned the girl. If monsters attacked, he would not protect her. That was not his mission. But he promised to pass on her final words if he met her brother. He then repeated Yi Xiaozu's wish. She hoped to wait at the hospital gate so her brother would see she was safe and not risk entering the abyss. Yi Jing's eyes turned bloodshot with rage. Overcome with anger, he rushed forward and demanded answers. He could not accept that Wu Ming just stood by. Wu Ming remained indifferent. A mercenary only completed the mission and took the pay. Nothing else mattered. Raising his sword, Wu Ming said coldly that anyone who traveled with him would likely die. In the end, he was always the sole survivor. The clash sent Yi Jing flying back. Wu Ming's voice stayed calm. Even after the warning, the girl chose to follow him. That outcome was partly her choice. Hearing this, Yi Jing exploded with fury. He gripped his weapon and charged again, demanding his sister's location. Wu Ming blocked easily and made an offer. Hand over Song Qingshan and he would reveal where Ye Xiaoju was. Yi Jing refused without hesitation. As they faced off, Song Qingshan suddenly trembled and shouted that he agreed. Wu Ming's patience thinned. He said he hated obstacles. Even former comrades would be buried if they stood in his way. Ye Jing unleashed a heavy strike that knocked the greatsword from Wu Ming's hand. Seizing the moment, he threw a punch, thinking Wu Ming was harmless without his blade. Wu Ming caught the punch with one hand. Yi Jing's expression darkened. His other hand drew a dagger and stabbed forward. That attack was also stopped in Wu Ming's palm. With a squeeze, the dagger flew away. A skill effect triggered. All of Yi Jing's weapons were disabled for 8 seconds. Without pause, Wu Ming slammed his head into Ye Jing and sent him crashing back. Pulling away, Yi Jing admitted. He thought the greatsword was Wu Ming's main strength. He did not expect such terrifying close combat. Wu Ming explained that double bounty mercenaries were sent to the deadliest zones. If they lost their weapons, they fought with their bodies. Those skills were forged near death, and he had not even used full power. He declared confidently that once the great sword returned to his hand, Ye Jing would stand no chance. Golden light gathered around the blade. Wu Ming muttered the skill name, Rockbreaker Slash. Yi Jing analyzed quickly. The greatsword was powerful but heavy and not the fastest. Strike before it finished, and the rhythm could be broken. But in the next second, Wu Ming dashed forward like a storm. Even Yi Jing had to admit the speed was terrifying. Without hesitation, he threw out a summon card marked with a spider. 2 level 5 demonized spiders appeared instantly. Wu Ming showed a hint of surprise at Yi Jing's summoning ability. The 2 monsters spat thick webs straight at him. In a blink, Wu Ming was wrapped in layers of silk. One sword sweep cut them all apart. He leaped up to avoid the strands at his feet and scoffed. If Yi Jing thought a few monsters could stop him, that was naive. Red light erupted from the blade. The energy shook the air as Wu Ming unleashed Rockbreaker Slash again. Seeing Yi Jing charge like a burning arrow, Wu Ming still looked down on him. Summons alone could not threaten him. Then his eyes suddenly shifted behind Yi Jing. A dark purple beam shot forward from Yi Jing's position. Wu Ming raised his sword to block. Even so, he was pushed back several meters. If not for the thick blade absorbing most of the force, that strength would have pierced him. Dark purple aura surged around Yi Jing like a descending demon god. Wu Ming realized this was no ordinary corpse collector. Planting his sword into the ground, Wu Ming admitted Yi Jing was far stronger than expected. Yi Jing stared back and said no matter the experience gap, he would never retreat. Gritting his teeth, Yi Jing asked one last time, "Where is my sister?" The scene flashed back. Sitting in her wheelchair, Ye Xiaoju asked Wu Ming who was stronger, him or her brother. After cutting down a monster, Wu Ming answered without hesitation, her brother. Ye Xiaoju beamed with pride. In her eyes, Ye Jing was the best in the world. Even as a corpse collector, he fought every day to change fate. She admired him deeply. Wu Ming said corpse collecting was usually the lowest class job, barely related to strength. Ye Xiaoju blushed and argued that her brother was still stronger than him. Smiling brightly, she said one look into her brother's determined eyes, or the warmth of his hand on her forehead, proved how strong he was. Wu Ming grew curious and said he would like to meet him someday. She happily promised to introduce them. Back to the present, Wu Ming studied Yi Jing's gaze. It was the look of someone who had crossed life and death many times. He felt rare respect. An empty mana bottle rolled to Yi Jing's feet. He licked his lips. This was his last potion. Checking Wu Ming's stats, he saw a normal health bar, a two-handed swordsman class, and reasonable vitality. After quick calculations, Ye Jing believed that with Berserk enhancement, critical hits, stacked effects, and a weak point strike, a few moves might be enough. But something felt strange. Other class users wore full armor. Wu Ming carried almost no protection besides his greatsword. As Wu Ming rushed in with full force, Ye Jing realized this style abandoned defense entirely. It was a fight trading life for life. The greatsword swept across with violent force. Yi Jing reacted fast and leaped high. Appearing behind Wu Ming, his blade glowed purple and slashed down. Wu Ming's eyes burned with excitement, as if enjoying the battle. He did not retreat. He spun and thrust his sword straight back. Yi Jing's pupils turned purple. He was shocked by that speed. An undead card activated. The system displayed soul impact. Yi Jing's speed surged. A storm of strikes rained down, triggering critical, lucky critical, and enhanced damage alerts. Yet when the combo ended, Ye Jing froze. Wu Ming was still standing unharmed. He was stunned. From start to finish, Wu Ming never dodged. Just let every hit land like it meant nothing. Wu Ming slowly turned his head and looked at him. What shocked Yi Jing even more was this. There was no blood at all. Golden light particles floated out from every wound. The scene made no sense. Wu Ming raised his head to the sky and let out a savage roar. A storm-like sword slash shot forward, forcing Yi Jing to jump back fast. A dark purple energy sphere quickly formed in Yi Jing's palm. From the ground, countless arms covered in ancient runes burst out and grabbed Wu Ming at once. Even restrained, Wu Ming laughed wildly. The fight was only getting more fun. Yi Jing breathed heavily and stared at him. In the tense silence, Wu Ming calmly revealed the truth. He could not be killed by normal attacks. Ye Jing was shaken to the core. Wu Ming looked at his fist and spoke slowly. In the abyss, there are things far beyond modern science. Classes, skills, attributes, even equipment. His body looked like a cracked statue. Then he mentioned something even greater. It was called the Origin Curse, the price gods demand for power beyond limits. He recalled facing a Bastier corpse king, the despair back then carved into his soul. Even terrified of death, he kept stepping toward it to steal power. Gods never follow logic. Sometimes they grant strength just for amusement. Wu Ming burst into mad laughter. More cracks spread across his body. He concluded that Yi Jing's power belonged to the same kind of existence. His roar grew louder as the cracks widened, but he kept talking. Every gift from the gods comes with a price. One day, the most precious thing will be taken away. Watching the golden particles fall from Wu Ming, Yi Jing's face changed. He recognized the trait, Immortal Being. It was one of the strongest traits ever recorded. As long as the power source remained, the user could revive almost endlessly. Yi Jing's expression turned heavy. At the same time, Wu Ming raised his hand and slowly stood up from the rubble. He calmly said that at the moment he almost died. Back then his hand had touched eternity. In his memories, every time Wu Ming walked out of an abyss gate, rumors followed. He was always the only survivor. Some said he had twisted luck. Others claimed he killed teammates for the reward. No proof existed, but his name spread through the mercenary world. Many refused missions if Wu Ming joined. They did not want to be sacrifices. Standing firm again, Wu Ming said in a low voice that he had accepted the full price of eternity. Holding a half-broken greatsword, he still looked confident. Even if he had died long ago, this existence could last forever. Yi Jing narrowed his eyes, fully on guard. Golden energy quickly restored the broken blade. Wu Ming shot into the air and activated Death Wish. When his HP dropped below 33%, all damage taken increased by 100%, and his own damage doubled. Seeing that effect, Ye Jing understood. Combined with the Origin Curse, this build was nearly game-breaking. At that moment, the Bloody Nightmare card was summoned. Wu Ming's greatsword came down with terrifying force, aiming straight at Ye Jing. His body was instantly sliced in half. But thanks to the card's effect, the two halves fused back together. Ye Jing used the chance to escape the attack range. The dark purple energy around his hand exploded like never before. Meanwhile, Wu Ming kept charging power for the next strike. A shield suddenly appeared and blocked the sword path. Ye Jing felt a sharp headache. Breaking Wu Ming's immortality would not be easy. Wu Ming still looked certain of victory. In a direct clash of power, he believed he would win. The pressure forced Ye Jing to retreat again and again. At that moment, the Death God Soul card activated. A grim Reaper-shaped divine weapon appeared on the battlefield. The Death God Soul rushed forward and slashed down. Wu Ming was briefly surprised. He recognized it as divine weapon control. By instinct, he swung his greatsword, but the blade passed through like it hit empty air. The Death God Soul spun and countered, leaving a cut on his shoulder. Wu Ming quickly understood. This was not a real entity, just a special skill effect. Ye Jing took the chance to explain. Any target killed by this skill triggers Despair Harvest. It restores his HP and mana. In Wu Ming's current state, the effect almost triggered with every strike. He added that immortals survive because of massive mana reserves. The HP bar is just a disguise. The real key to Wu Ming's survival is that near-limitless mana pool. Hearing that, Wu Ming could not hide his surprise. He admitted Ye Jing's analysis and intel gathering were far beyond normal. Ye Jing smiled faintly. In the abyss, all power follows rules. No matter how hard the puzzle, there is always an answer. Overpowered fighters are often glass cannons. Huge damage, fatal weakness. He pointed out that Wu Ming fought recklessly on purpose. No armor, always charging head-on. It made enemies believe he had no weakness and forced them into maximum tension. Wu Ming nodded calmly. Surviving the abyss means exploiting rules. But that also means everyone has weaknesses, even Ye Jing. Then he mentioned another aspect beyond strength, speed, stamina, willpower, or luck. Ye Jing replied with confidence. Unlike most class holders, he distributed all his stat points evenly. He called himself a true hexagon warrior. The moment he finished speaking, he charged. The goal was clear. End it before Wu Ming fully recovered. Wu Ming quickly raised his sword to block. Deep down, he admired Ye Jing. His speed, strength, and reflexes far surpassed others his age. A sudden thrust came, but Ye Jing dodged lightly. He even bragged that from combat skills to raw power to overlooked talents, he had studied them all. As he spoke, his blade swept sideways at shocking speed, cutting across Wu Ming's back. Ye Jing already had a plan. If physical attacks could not kill him, then he would drag the fight out and drain his mana. Once the energy ran dry, regeneration would stop. Without giving him time to think, Wu Ming dashed in with a lightning-fast strike. The Death God Soul card activated once again. The Grim Reaper swung its scythe and severed Wu Ming's sword arm. Watching golden sand flow from his shoulder, Wu Ming realized his mana loss was slowing his regeneration. Ye Jing seized the advantage. In a battle of attrition, he would be the final winner. Yet Wu Ming did not waver. Every puzzle has a solution. If combat was not Ye Jing's weakness, then another flaw must exist outside that field. As his arm slowly regenerated, Ye Jing's eyes suddenly fell on a teddy bear on the ground. He wondered when it had dropped. The moment Ye Jing was distracted, Wu Ming closed the distance at extreme speed. With no fancy moves, he grabbed Ye Jing's head and slammed it hard into the ground. Killing intent filled his eyes. Anyone who stood in his way deserved no mercy, even former comrades. But Ye Jing was different. Ye Jing was shocked to realize Wu Ming still retained some humanity. Wu Ming said even knowing the one Ye Jing protected was no saint, he still chose to block him. His tone turned serious. If you had to choose between your little sister and Song Qingshan, who would you save? Hearing that, Ye Jing's face changed instantly. He cut him off, insisting Yi Xiaoju was still alive. Wu Ming denied that assumption. He never said she was dead. The teddy bear was proof he knew where she was. With a faint smile, he explained the bear was only for trust. The girl was not as fragile as people thought. Ye Jing's mind was in chaos. He demanded answers. The story shifted back a few hours earlier, deep inside a dark tunnel. At that time, Wu Ming was swinging his great sword against a massive monster. Meanwhile, another creature had already captured Ye Xiaoju. She cried in fear, remembering Wu Ming once said he would not protect her. She was not his client. Her brother's face appeared in her mind, his promise to earn enough money to heal her legs so she could stand again. Desperate but unwilling to give up, she closed her eyes and prayed. She did not want to be a burden. She begged for power, even just for a moment. Suddenly, her eyes lit up with a strange purple glow. The monster in front of her froze in confusion. In its vision, a terrifying shadow seemed to appear. A notification popped up. The class evolution inheritor had awakened. A giant brown bear appeared, far larger than the monster. With a single swipe of its claw, the monster was torn into pieces. At the same time, Wu Ming cut off the other creature's head, ending the battle completely. After finishing everything, he walked toward the door ahead, but then he stopped and looked back at the girl. Seeing the giant bear, he guessed that ordinary people who successfully fused with abyss cells often awakened classes. Maybe she was the same, just like that father once said. Despite its massive body, the bear was crying with tears streaming down. The girl raised her paw toward him. He simply watched in silence. He felt uneasy. Rumors said abyss cell mutations often erased sanity and turned people into monsters. But she only trembled and burst into tears, shocked and overjoyed that she could finally move on her own legs. Wu Ming was stunned. Cold sweat ran down his back. She had kept her human consciousness. He asked her to say her name. Sitting on the ground, she sobbed and said she was Ye Xiaoju. Wu Ming set his sword aside, confirming his guess. When she saw her reflection, she panicked. She had become a giant teddy bear. Wu Ming could only sigh. Holding her cheeks, she cried miserably. She did not look human anymore. How could she face her brother? Even Wu Ming did not know how to explain it. After thinking for a while, he said if she did not want to travel with him, that was fine. He still had his own mission. Using her giant claws, she picked up a small teddy bear and handed it to him. She asked him to give it to her brother. She needed time to accept everything. Wu Ming took the teddy bear and simply said, if he ever met her brother, he would personally hand it over. Back to the present, Wu Ming sat calmly on the rubble. If they kept fighting, he would be the one at a disadvantage. He only wanted to witness Yi Jing's power. Now there was no reason to be enemies. Hearing Ye Xiaoju was alive, Song Qingshan's face changed drastically. His eyes widened as if a storm was coming. Wu Ming's voice stayed cold. The doctor standing behind them was the real reason Yi Jing's sister was pushed into danger. Yi Jing's eyes turned red as he stared at the doctor. But Wu Ming was not finished. He delivered another crushing blow. He claimed the appearance of the abyss was partly that man's doing. Earlier, in a cramped dark room, Lin Xuan's father admitted in despair that he had no other choice. Staring at the dark purple key in his hand, he knew that opening any door with it would flood the lab with abyss energy and turn it into a true abyss. His heart was filled with hatred. He believed that with Song Qingshan's status, someone would come to save him sooner or later, so he wanted to bury both his body and soul here and drag all his research into the abyss to repay the pain his daughter suffered. Wu Ming asked in a low voice if he understood the price. The man calmly said the cost did not matter. Song Qingshan began to panic but still tried to justify himself. He mentioned Lin Xuyan. He had paid compensation and fired her father. To him, someone with no value was not worth wasting resources on. Hearing that, the killing intent in Yi Jing's eyes grew thicker. Song Qingshan hurried to explain that Yi Xiaozu's case was an accident. He could not pull her out of the abyss in time. Even if she was once a test subject, it was her choice. If Yi Jing was unhappy, he could compensate him. In fear, he even said whether alive or dead, everything could be settled with money. The word compensation made Yi Jing's teeth grind. Yi Jing could not hold back. He threw a full force punch. Song Qingshan spat blood and was sent flying. Yi Jing's body trembled with rage. Song Qingshan lay on the ground shaking. Even with a swollen face, he still argued. He could not understand why a cripple mattered so much to Ye Jing. His cold words continued. In his eyes, using Yi Xiaoju was just maximizing human value. Dying for research was an honor. Every word stabbed into Yi Jing's heart. She was his last family. At that moment, an arm covered in ancient runes suddenly tightened around him. Suppressing his fury, Ye Jing growled that Ye Xiaoju was the only one who survived that tragedy with him. Someone like Song Qingshan would never understand. Under the crushing pressure, he could only mumble denials. The rune-covered hand slammed him hard into the ground. Yi Jing looked at him like he was worthless trash. Grabbing his collar, he said coldly that even trash can be recycled. But someone like him was not wanted even in hell. Yi Jing glanced at Wu Ming and casually threw Song Qingshan toward him, declaring he was now Wu Ming's to deal with. Wu Ming's mechanical arm shot out and grabbed Song Qingshan by the face. Watching Yi Jing walk toward the teleport gate, Wu Ming said this counted as a deal. Yi Jing replied that all he cared about was confirming his sister was safe. Wu Ming smiled cruelly. A mercenary's job is to complete the commission. Song Qingshan had to die here. Hearing that, Song Qingshan offered double the payment and asked how much the old man had paid. Wu Ming asked back in confusion, "A life is only one. How do you plan to pay double?" The question left Song Qingshan stunned. Looking at the teleport gate, Wu Ming felt a hint of anticipation. He hoped one day to fight Yi Jing seriously with no restraints. As Yi Jing stepped through the portal, a painful scream echoed behind him. On the other side, the giant bear tilted its head. The moment Yi Jing appeared, Ye Xiaoju froze. Seeing him, Ye Xiaoju burst into tears and called out loudly. Looking up at the massive bear, Ye Jing softly said he was here, just a little late. She choked and said she was the one who should apologize. She always dragged him down. Even though she never wanted him to risk his life, deep down she still hoped he would come. Seeing how much bigger she was now, he gently reassured her. It was over. No monster would threaten her again. But Xiaoju sadly shook her head. Sitting on the ground, she cried and pointed at herself. The monster was her. Tears kept falling. She blamed herself for always relying on him. She wanted his protection, but did not want to be a burden. She only wished to stand up from her wheelchair and share his burden. Instead, she became this strange creature. Hearing that, Yi Jing let out a soft sigh. Then he smiled and said, "Some people look human, but are worse than monsters." No matter how her appearance changed, in his eyes she was still his cutest little sister. Xiaozhu lowered her head and looked at her body, sadly repeating that this was what she looked like now. Yi Jing laughed and said he dealt with monsters every day. He could tell what a real monster was. After that, he glanced around the room. Seeing monster corpses everywhere, he was stunned by the results. A bit hesitant, he asked if she did all of that. Xiaozhu scratched her head shyly and denied it. She pointed at a nearby corpse and proudly said that one was hers. She smashed it right after transforming. Yi Jing was surprised. Her strength was not low at all. Just then, she noticed her giant claws were slowly fading. A soft pink light flashed, and her body gradually returned to human form. Xiaozhu stared at herself in confusion and asked what just happened. Yi Jing explained that the mana maintaining her transformation had run out, so her body reverted. That proved she was not a monster, just someone with a special transformer class ability. As he carried her, he congratulated her on becoming a class holder who could protect herself. She happily asked if she could become like him. Placing her back in the wheelchair, he turned serious. That was not allowed. He would never let her step into danger. Suddenly, Xiaozhu asked if he met someone special. Yi Jing asked who. She playfully pulled at the corner of her eye to describe him. Laughing in her wheelchair, she said that man wanted to meet Yi Jing. He believed they would get along. He even said Yi Jing looked like someone hard to kill, just like him. Yi Jing recalled their fierce battle and gave an uncertain reply. As he pushed her toward the teleport gate, he calmly said someone like that did not sound easy to sit down and chat with. Time passed. The scene shifted to an old alley. Yi Jing was sleeping deeply when the phone on the table kept ringing. He answered half asleep and was jolted awake by shouting on the other end. The man complained that since work at the mall started, he had not seen Yi Jing at all. Then he heard Yi Jing took private jobs with the Blood Oath Alliance. Yi Jing sat up helplessly and explained he needed money, so he had to find extra work. The man's tone softened and asked if he still collected scrap. Yi Jing confirmed he did. The volume instantly rose again. The man scolded and worried at the same time. Yi Jing was young and needed to be careful. Having new work was good, but safety came first. He still had a sister to care for. Yi Jing smiled bitterly and thanked him. Just as the call ended, another notification popped up. Yi Jing looked at the screen and froze. A transfer notice appeared. Lu Xingran had sent him 2.4 million yuan. Yi Jing was thrilled. A rich young lady really worked fast. Opening the attached message, he saw Lu Xingran's smug face. She said the item was sold and reminded him to thank her. Staring at the number on the screen, Yi Jing felt dizzy. The amount was huge. He recalled that all the gear from his recent Abyss runs was sold under Lu Xingran's name. With her reputation, no one dared question the source. His memory went back to last night on the rooftop of a luxury building. Weapons and equipment were laid out everywhere. Lu Xingran stared at the pile in shock and asked what he did overnight to get so many spoils. Yi Jing smiled and said he just went into the abyss to collect trash and brought back a few items. She did not believe him and demanded the truth. He calmly explained that he did not need these high-level items yet, so he wanted her to handle them. In a way, he really did pick them up. Lu Xingran lightly patted his chest and asked if he was still just a level 1 scrap collector. Then she noticed his body was much more solid than before. Seeing his meaningful smile, she began to suspect that scrap collecting might have a completely different growth path from normal classes. Facing that guess, Ye Jing calmly says he is still just a scavenger, and if a scavenger gets stronger, that is totally normal. Suddenly remembering something, Liu Xingran suggests he take the World Guild Hunter exam, because treasures from the Abyss need a legal identity to use. Yi Jing asks if getting certified means he can enter the Abyss as an official hunter. She confirms, reminding him he has been operating as an unlicensed hunter and could get into serious trouble if exposed. She looks at him confidently and says this test is his chance to prove that even a rank 1 can qualify as an official hunter. Lu Xingran encourages him, saying she fully believes in his strength. The exam requires a guarantor every year, and this time she will personally sponsor him. When Yi Jing hesitates, she tells her subordinates to report that all his gear was legally purchased by her. She calls it a return for everything he has done for her. Hearing that, Ye Jing rubs his hair awkwardly, feeling like he owes her yet another favor. Back to the present, he stares at the bowl of noodles in front of him in confusion. Right then, Ye Xiaoju shows up and gently explains that the rented room has no kitchen, so she ordered his favorite dish. Yi Jing smiles and asks why she woke up so early. Blushing slightly, she says today is her discharge day, so she did not want to lie in bed all morning. While eating, he asks about her legs. Xiaoju says ever since her body changed, her mobility has improved a lot. After saying that, she pushes herself up from the wheelchair and tries to stand. Seeing his sister trembling slightly but standing on her own feet, Ye Jing almost chokes in shock. Xiao Ju explains she carefully controls her mana to avoid turning into a bear and wrecking the room, focusing the power on her knees. He gently tells her not to push herself too hard because he is always there for her. She smiles and says she understands. She will train step by step, aiming to stand on her own, not blindly overexert herself. Taking a bite of bread, Ye Jing reminds her that everything takes time and cannot be rushed. As he gets ready to leave, Xiaoju asks in surprise if he has to work even on the weekend. He nods and says he has something important to handle today. He gives a mysterious smile and says even big brothers have private matters that cannot wait, weekend or not. After the door closes, Xiaoju watches him suspiciously. His vague tone makes her wonder if he is secretly going to meet a girlfriend. Meanwhile, Ye Jing stands on the railing of a construction site, facing a towering skyscraper. In front of him is a group of sharp-eyed people, constantly observing their surroundings. The scene makes him break into a cold sweat, thinking this hunter exam is way more grand than expected. Just then, a voice behind him asks if he is here for the hunter exam and which hunting team he plans to join. The speaker is Zhu Tong. The moment they see each other, both look equally surprised. Zhu Tong cannot understand why someone as strong as Ye Jing is here for certification. Has he really never had official hunter status? Ye Jing casually makes up an excuse, saying his finances have improved lately, so he decided to get certified. Then he asks why Zhu Tong still has not become a true hunter. Zhu Tong happily explains that he followed Ye Jing's advice and trained in close combat for a long time, but most people still see him as backline support and think he is not qualified to join a hunting team, so he wants to prove he can fight head-on. Zhu Tong laughs and guesses that if Ye Jing is registering, he must be aiming for the highest level. Ye Jing nods without hesitation. At that moment, two burly men aggressively shove their way forward, shouting for everyone to move aside. Behind them, Wu Sanzuo stands, with a cigarette in his mouth, looking annoyed that he even has to line up for paperwork. His two lackeys immediately boast about his status, loudly declaring that he is a God-chosen ranger, and anyone who blocks their boss' path should be ready for a beating. Hearing the title God-chosen, Ye Jing recalls the people he has met before, while Zhu Tong looks completely confused. In Ye Jing's mind appears Liu Xingran, the God-chosen knight, with overwhelming combat power, ice magic, and incredible healing ability, which places her firmly at rank. Ye Jing analyzes that a God-chosen class is basically a base profession fused with external power, either covering weaknesses or amplifying strengths like a blessing from the gods. Then he tells Zhu Tong to wait until Wu Sanzuo finishes before registering. Zhu Tong scoffs, saying that guy is just lucky. When his turn comes, Wu Sanzuo struts up to the registration counter. The staff calmly asks what type of license he wants to apply for. He points at himself arrogantly and asks what other license a God-chosen like him could possibly need. The answer is an all-round license. The crowd instantly buzzes, since this certification is extremely difficult, though many believe a God-chosen might actually pass. His two lackeys keep hyping him up, calling their boss a top-tier genius, and saying no one else even compares. Not far away, a girl lets out a cold, mocking snort. Hearing it, Wu Sanzuo turns around. The moment he sees the beautiful girl, his attitude flips, and he invites her to team up with him. Yilang looks at him with pure disdain and bluntly says he is not qualified. Instead of backing off, Wu Sanzuo starts spewing vulgar boasts about his strength and other crude matters. Yilang's face turns icy. A flash of purple light sparks as she snaps her fingers. An explosion erupts instantly, blasting Wu Sanzuo away as his lackeys watch in horror. His miserable scream echoes across the area. Flames engulf his body, turning him into a human torch. His men rage, claiming everyone here is new and she is too vicious, clearly clueless about how powerful their boss really is. Zhu Tong stares wide-eyed. Ye Jing recognizes it immediately as Blaze Explosion and realizes this girl is far from simple. When the flames die down, Wu Sanzuo stands there charred black, clothes nearly burned off. The crowd bursts into laughter, mocking his God-chosen title. Humiliated in public, Wu Sanzuo grits his teeth in fury. He pulls out two daggers, declaring he will teach her a lesson and reclaim his pride. Just as he is about to move, a hand suddenly lands on his shoulder. Wu Sanzuo turns to curse the person blocking him, and Yilang also looks over in surprise. The instant he sees who it is, his face turns pale like he has seen a ghost. Ye Jing calmly reminds him this place is under supervision and causing trouble will bring serious consequences. Wu Sanzuo freezes, then quickly nods. For some reason, Ye Jing's presence alone feels suffocating. At that moment, two heavily armored warriors step out from behind the counter. One coldly announces that using professional abilities in public areas is strictly forbidden. Seeing the spear in the warrior's hand, Wu Sanzuo immediately changes his tone, blaming the hot weather for everyone losing their temper. But Yilang insists he started it. The supervisor warns that if she keeps violating the rules, she will be punished as well. The staff asks for her profession and desired license. Annoyed, she says she is a fire elementalist applying for a magic transport license. A blue crystal is brought out, and she is told to place her hand on it for inspection due to suspicious activity. With clear displeasure, she grabs the crystal at once. The moment she touches it, electric-like rays burst out, and the staff immediately conclude her power index far exceeds normal standards. He turns to the crowd and explains that many unregistered powerhouses have recently left massive destruction inside the abyss, so inspections are now stricter. Then he asks her to come along for further investigation, making her break into a cold sweat. Her expression darkens instantly. In the next second, she switches to a friendly smile, sweetly asking for a retest, claiming the device might have malfunctioned. This time, when she holds the crystal, the blue light glows steadily. The staff looks confused since the device is highly accurate, yet her stat size now appear completely normal. Realizing she passed the inspection, she blushes with relief and even jumps in excitement. Watching from the side, Ye Jing is stunned, feeling like she just turned into a completely different person. Zhu Tong seems to realize something, and is about to say the person they are searching for might be her. But Yi Jing quickly raises a finger to his lips, signaling him to stay quiet. The staff impatiently cuts the noise and calls the next person. Yi Jing steps up for inspection. Zhu Tong thinks the crystal will never measure his strength. When asked which license he wants, Yi Jing calmly drops a bombshell, the all-round license. The staff looks confused and explains that the all-round license is usually reserved for the God-chosen, so they first need to know his profession. Yi Jing replies casually that he is an awakener, currently rank 1. A burly man nearby is shocked that he is just a newbie. Others mock the strangest-sounding class. Zhu Tong snaps back, saying his boss can crush them all with one hand. Sensing tension rising, Yi Jing explains he only wants a flexible identity that can adapt to any team and handle all situations. The staff says choosing that path is not wrong, but asks if he even knows the exam for the all-round license. Yi Jing is stunned, unaware there is a separate test. The staff can only stare at this rookie in disbelief, while Yi Lang grows curious about his odd profession. Smiling, the staff announces that others will form teams to clear an abyss scouting mission, but Ye Jing must complete the entire challenge alone. Hearing this rule, many think it sounds suicidal, since even the easiest abyss is deadly for a solo newcomer. Looking at the keys representing different difficulty levels, Yi Jing asks if clearing the abyss guarantees a hunter card. The staff warns that the key he is eyeing belongs to a veteran tier difficulty, and rookies who enter are basically choosing death. Even so, the crystal is handed to him. The staff jokes that unless this kid is a hidden master, he is probably just a fool. When Yi Jing places his hand on it, the crystal shows no reaction at all, reinforcing the second guess. The crowd bursts into laughter, saying Zhu Tong's boss is here for entertainment and suicide. Zhu Tong grits his teeth but forces himself to stay calm. Ignoring the noise, Yi Jing asks if there is anything else to note, then takes the key. Seeing he truly plans to enter alone, everyone is stunned. The staff can only warn that they take no responsibility if he insists, adding that there are portal sealing items inside, and the key can be used if necessary. Yi Jing confidently says nothing will happen, but before he finishes, Zhu Tong shouts from behind, telling him to wait. Standing before the pitch-black abyss gate, Ye Jing leaves one sentence behind: he will return safely. At that moment, Wu Sanzuo sneers, unable to understand how someone weak dares challenge a high-difficulty abyss. He is also holding a key. Unwilling to accept it, he demands a high-difficulty key so he can enter the same abyss as Yi Jing. The staff calmly refuses, explaining there is only one high-difficulty key, and the abyss gate can only be reinforced once. If he wants in, he must wait for the next round. Wu Sanzuo refuses to give up and asks to enter the same location as Yi Jing without forming a team. Yi Jing looks at him in confusion. The staff considers it and asks if he intends to participate as a competitor. A guard adds that the rules only forbid teaming up, not competitors appearing in the same zone. After hearing the exchange, the staff clears his throat and continues. He calmly explains that as competitors, only one person can claim the boss token after the kill, and only one can complete the exam. He seriously warns them not to think more people makes it easier. The moment a second person enters this high-difficulty abyss, it jumps to hell level. The more participants, the more the challenge scales exponentially. That is why only one person is usually allowed. He adds that the abyss is extremely dangerous, and even under World Guild control, abnormal rule resets can create countless unpredictable variables. For example, the internal structure may suddenly change, or monsters may gain unexpected enhancement effects. After finishing, he pauses and asks them one last time if they still want to proceed after hearing all of this. Yi Jing thinks to himself, these special enhancement rules are basically elite monster traits. Some boost health and damage, while others grant immunity to certain attacks, forcing players to rely on specific mechanics. He has dealt with those before. Wu Sanzuo stays extremely confident. He claims his top-tier gear makes these rules meaningless. His lackeys immediately echo him, praising their boss non-stop. Yi Jing glances over and evaluates. Only high-end gear can grant such insane stats. Combined with enhancement rules, the power becomes even more terrifying. Even a rookie can push their limits with gaudier equipment. He can almost see the numbers. Plus 100 strength, plus 200 agility. Seeing him hesitate, the staff grows impatient. Yi Jing calmly says he does not mind. One more participant changes nothing for him. In truth, he is more interested in hell difficulty spawning rare creatures, which means better monster corpses to collect. Zhu Tong quickly warns him that lethal rules like sudden boss spawns or total mana lock would be deadly, and even his dispel magic might fail. Yi Jing reassures him, saying Wu Sanzuo still has some practical value if needed. Hearing that, Wu Sanzuo reminds him they are competitors. If Yi Jing is in danger, he will not help, since only one can pass. Yi Jing simply smiles and tells him to open the gate first. Maybe the luck of a god chosen will draw favorable rules. Holding the key, Wu Sanzuo sneers, clearly pleased with himself. He rushes toward the gate, boasting that people call him the Western God. The moment the gate activates, notifications flood in. The abyss is reinforced to high difficulty. Monster count plus 300, health plus 150, damage plus 70. The entrance turns an oppressive purple. But that is only the start. More rules appear. Mana sealed zone. Special spawn rate plus 3%. Decay spread effect reducing all healing by 75%. Wu Sanzuo instantly curses his terrible luck. He checks his gear and complains that he stocked a huge bag of recovery potions to clear the dungeon. With healing cut this hard, his entire plan collapses. Yi Jing also realizes his own healing skills, like man-eating flower and death drain, will be heavily weakened. Thinking further, he notes that the self-damage from Berserk will become far more dangerous. If used carelessly, the skill might hurt him more than help. Wu Sanzuo sighs that he even bought the largest backpack to carry extra potions. Now most of it is useless. He has no choice but to lighten his load and rely on combat. After reorganizing, he switches to a simpler armor set and confidently claims his indestructible diamond gear is enough to crush normal mobs. Without hesitation, Wu Sanzuo steps through the abyss gate, loudly declaring he will go first. As soon as he enters, the notice board updates again. With a second participant confirmed, the difficulty officially jumps from high to hell. Another announcement follows. A legendary challenge has been activated. A legendary tier monster will spawn, not confined to the boss zone. Whoever kills it will receive a matching legendary reward. Seeing this, the staff member is stunned. The legendary clause has an absurdly low trigger rate. Even someone with 300 luck points would almost never see it. He immediately reports the appearance of a legendary rule in the hunter exam. Meanwhile, inside the area filled with spatial gates, the atmosphere turns strange. In front of a simple difficulty abyss gate, Zhu Tong looks at his three teammates and excitedly encourages them to clear the challenge together. But when his eyes shift to the high difficulty abyss gate beside it, he cannot hide his worry, silently hoping Yi Jing returns safely. The moment he steps inside, Wu Sanzuo starts bragging. Looking at the vast space, he says it is no different from his 1,000-square-meter villa. Then he complains the hall is too plain, with no decorations at all, not even comparable to his garden. Right then, Yi Jing calmly drops a bombshell. The place they are standing in is the boss room. Wu Sanzuo spins around in disbelief, shocked they entered the boss zone immediately. Both of them quickly notice two massive stone statues standing ahead. Target information appears. One possesses extreme speed and a terrifying bleed effect. Yi Jing pulls out a detection crystal and turns serious. The enemy has 4 powerful sub-attributes, truly hell-tier monsters. He plans to summon spiders first to draw aggro, then use his speed to strike from behind. The target's armor is focused on the front, and with his Blood Rage armor-breaking style unusable right now, the only option is to aim for weak points. With that thought, he activates his spider summon. But Wu Sanzuo charges ahead first. With dual blades in hand, he roars and rushes the boss, declaring the token will be his. Yi Jing can only watch. As he closes in, Wu Sanzuo keeps shouting that he will show his true strength. His roar echoes through the hall as he unleashes his strongest skill. Seeing this reckless charge, Yi Jing's expression changes. In his eyes, this guy has gone insane. Wu Sanzuo leaps high into the air and launches his attack. The sword-wielding statue slowly raises its weapon and enters combat stance. A massive blade crashes down. Wu Sanzuo cannot change direction and slams straight into it. The impact twists his face in pain, and he curses on the spot. The statue casually swings its sword, sending him crashing into the ground and forming a huge crater. Yet he still stands up, complaining the boss hit too hard right away. Yi Jing observes that his gear is heavily defense-oriented. Even a full-force boss strike failed to break his defense. Suddenly, Yi Jing senses danger and turns his head. The other statue, the one wielding a battle axe, is already charging at him. Yi Jing instantly realizes all aggro has shifted to him, completely ruining his original plan. He leaps upward to dodge while the statue tracks his every move. A sharp blade sweeps toward him, forcing him to twist aside. Without pause, the statue continues unleashing a relentless barrage of strikes. While dodging, Yi Jing analyzes that this noble knight's bleed effect is deadly. Even a scratch will cause non-stop bleeding. With healing restricted, that is practically fatal. Debris from the attack scatters everywhere, even hitting Wu Sanzuo. He angrily shouts that Yi Jing is the target, yet he is the one getting dragged into it. Yi Jing replies that boss attacks do not distinguish targets. If he does not want collateral damage, he should stay away from the battlefield. At that moment, the axe-wielding statue suddenly leaps high. Wu Sanzuo stubbornly claims he was just careless and not interfering. A panel appears describing the brave warrior's skills, featuring powerful armor break and target lock. The giant twin axes slam down toward Yi Jing. He immediately understands this skill is designed to counter defense-based or summoner classes. Tilting to dodge a horizontal slash, he summons a wraith and fires back with soul impact. Unexpectedly, Wu Sanzuo suddenly accelerates, rushing past Yi Jing and shouting for him to step aside so he can handle it. Watching this, Yi Jing evaluates silently. Annoying personality aside, at least this guy is sharing the pressure. Facing two bosses at once, having someone tanking up front is not a bad thing. However, the moment Wu Sanzuo closes in, the axe statue smashes him with a brutal strike. Blood instantly sprays from his mouth. While dodging the flying body of Wu Sanzuo, Yi Jing keeps thinking about what a real tanker should be. High defense, able to take hits, and able to hold aggro. Looking at him, Yi Jing realizes Wu Sanzuo actually fits the role of a meat shield pretty well, while the guy himself just clutches his chest and keeps whining in pain. Right then, the axe-wielding statue opens its mouth and unleashes a terrifying sound wave straight at them. A system notice explains the taunt mechanic. Anyone affected can only deal damage to the caster, and even lock-on skills are forced to switch targets. In the moment he sees the green glow, Yi Jing understands everything. Tightening his grip on his weapon, he quickly judges that bursting them down one by one is impossible. So, the only option is to focus the tankiest and most annoying one first. The axe statue charges forward, each heavy step shaking the ground. Yi Jing rushes in and keeps slashing at its arm, but every hit deals almost no damage, and the system soon reveals the target reduces 95 points of slash damage. Seeing that, he immediately realizes cutting attacks are basically useless against this monster. This is completely different from the previous Abyss runs, where normal mobs dropped after just a few hits. At that moment, the sword-wielding statue also joins the fight. Yi Jing frowns as he now has to face both at once, starts suspecting they all dumped their stats into defense, then looks at Wu Sanzuo and questions how he even leveled up with such weak combat skills. Wu Sanzuo instantly fires back, loudly claiming he climbed up through real strength, not luck. Yi Jing snaps at him to focus on the fight, instead of talking nonsense in the middle of danger. Startled by the shout, Wu Sanzuo immediately turns and runs, but he barely makes it a few steps before tripping over a rock and falling flat on his face. Watching this, Yi Jing calmly points out that a mobility-based fighter wearing heavy armor only makes movement harder, and Wu Sanzuo complains that no one told him the Abyss would be this hard, since before this he just lay back while others carried him, as a rich young master used to paying people to power level him. While they are talking, a giant sword slams down from above, forcing both of them to dodge in a hurry. Yi Jing coldly reminds him that the Abyss is not an amusement park, but a place where people trade blood and sweat for a chance to survive. As he moves, he quickly changes tactics, and if slashes do not work, then he will use something simpler and more direct. He immediately dashes straight at the enemy. His fist tightens and explodes forward, and the raw strength from his stats alone deals serious damage. The punch is so powerful it knocks the enemy's sword offline, and he even jokes that this is the classic poor man's style, fighting with bare hands because you cannot afford good gear. Wu Sanzuo stares in shock, unable to believe such a heavily defensive monster is pushed back by a bare fist. After the counterattack, Yi Jing quickly slides past the target's side. The other statue seizes the chance to charge in, but he lowers his center of gravity and leaps away to dodge. A system notice pops up saying the attack triggered a critical hit on a weak point and inflicted stun, as his precise punch struck a vital spot. Looking at his fist, Yi Jing is slightly surprised that a simple punch caused a special effect, and the system explains that critical hits on weak points have a chance to trigger abnormal states influenced directly by the luck stat. But before he can think further, the other statue is already charging again. A sword slash sweeps across his body and cuts him clean in half. Seeing that, Wu Sanzuo screams in horror, thinking Yi Jing has been split apart. But then he notices a strange red light appearing in midair. Yi Jing instantly reappears at another spot as if